What's up, everybody? I'm back with another episode of the Keep Going podcast. Today's guest is Peter Levinson. He's the owner of LRE Realty with his wife, Tara Levinson. He's been a successful realtor and broker since 2007. He's a Marine veteran, a father, a husband, and surprisingly, even a grandfather. He's an awesome guy, and in this episode, we discuss his journey, but we also dabble on relationships, masculine and feminine energy, why they have a time and a place, what it's like finding a true partner, and pushing through life together. We talk about good times, hard times, and just have an amazing conversation. Peter, I can't thank you enough for your time, vulnerability, and wisdom. I hope you all get as much out of this episode as I did. As always, keep going. Peter, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for sitting down.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you. I know you've said it a couple times, like you're honored, and thank you for making the time, but same to you. It means a lot. You mean a lot to us in this real estate space. So
now I'm always honored to sit down. It was like, I'm going to jump into something right away. The very first quote that I ever memorized, I was in the Marine Corps, and the Commandant of the Marine Corps wrote this book, and it said, stars, bars, and chevrons are only indications of rank that a person holds at a particular place and time. And I think I was like 18 when I read it. And it's always stuck with me. It's like, it's no matter where you're at in life, you can meet someone. I've always felt like where I was in life, like I'm not the same person I was when I was 18. I won't be the same person when I'm 60. And then you meet people, you never know, like, you might be bigger than Joe Rogan in 2 years. And you're like, right. When you're like, come on and sit down with me, like, absolutely. Because then this is, wherever we're at in life, like I can be like, oh, I remember being when his podcast said, 100 views, and now he's getting millions. I was like, go back to episode like 20. I was there.
Yeah.
So I always think about that when you're meeting people. You never know, like, and I love stories. Like, can you imagine being part of somebody's story, like at the very beginning? So I'm always honored to be a part of someone's story.
Yeah, no, I never thought of it like that, because that's so true. Not only in like podcasting or interviews or things, but just being able to meet you at various stages. That's so true.
Yeah, it's the same thing like in our real estate world. It's, one of my favorite stories is, and we talked about a little bit before we started this, is people always, when they don't know who you are, people create their own story, right? And I talk about, like, I don't like social media. If you looked at my social media, you would think like, oh, this guy loves it. No, it's painful. It's painful to be like, I posted a picture this morning of like getting in the cold plunge. I literally set the camera up, got in, and did it like 2 or 3 times, and every time I was like, oh, God. But if I'm creating it, I'm inviting people into who I am. But if you don't, people fill the gap. And going back to like Tara, this is probably like 2 years ago, Tara gets this phone call. This agent calls her up, says, hey, I'm a new agent. I've been in the business a couple of months. Would you be available for any coffee anytime this week? And Tara said, absolutely. Can you do Thursday? And she was like, are you serious? And Tara was like, well, yeah. And she's like, oh my goodness. Everyone told me you would say no. And then they went and met, and then afterwards, Tara was telling me, she was like, how's coffee? She was like, it was great. I said, you know what she said afterwards? She goes, everyone said you were such a bitch, or were going to be one. She's like, and you were none of those things. And I think it goes into that narrative. You assume that where people are, that they have to be this, or they have to be that, and Tara's not on social media at all, so.
Yeah, well, no,
or her team is, but.
Oh, I mentioned it earlier. I had met her for coffee a long time ago when I told you I'd crossed paths with your daughter and Nathan, as far as on the investing side. It was because when I started in that would have been 2019 as an agent in wholesaling investing, I was meeting successful agents and saying, hey, like, how can we collaborate? Or if you come across things that make sense, how can we make it work? And Tara was one of the people I sat down with. And I remember her just being so nice. And just like this new agent that had only been doing it a couple months, probably someone else would say, no, Zach, you were somebody. But like to myself, I was like, nobody, just brand new, just reached out. And kind of the same with you. Not that I felt like I was a nobody. It's just, I knew like, hey, I like following his social media. I love his agents. I like what he stands for. I'm going to reach out. And you said yes, but it could have easily, if I would have let no one's ever told me something bad about you, but if I would have got some narrative, it could have made me freeze. But now we're here, just happy, so it's interesting.
I think we spend a lot of time judging our insides by other people's outsides, not really know what's going on. So,
well, it's also something to note when you said like the social media is not something you are that fond of. it's like I can sense it, but in a good way. Like, you're so consistent, but the realness is where I'm like, yeah, he's not doing that for any other reason than to just shed light on what he's doing. So it was nice that we had this scheduled, because getting to see you over the past few weeks in Costa Rica and getting like your personal time and family time and still grinding, and then I see you working as well. It's like, those are cool things to get to know somebody.
Wow. Well, thank you. And I say that I don't enjoy it. I think there is you were touching on like I do try to put my personality out there. So one of my passions, I love coaching, I love counseling. I say coaching, not counseling, but that life coaching aspect in life. But I feel like there's so much negativity too on there. I've noticed like this car train wreck kind of mentality. If somebody posts something super negative, and I've noticed like, and I say negative, like kind of like that black hat or something that, in my opinion, delves into the more negative aspect, I'll see within hours, like over 100 likes, tons of comments, and people are like, yeah. And I'm just like, that's so easy. It's so easy to make something sarcastic or this or that and jump on it. But I think it's like, negativity is, when you jump into the negativity, I used this analogy earlier about gossip, which is, I've never done drugs, but I would assume it's like doing crack. Like, yeah, you feel really good when you're in that, when you're jumping in the negativity, but then later when you're by yourself, the cracks wore off. You're feeling like, oh, I'm so ashamed of myself. I hope nobody sees the track marks. And it's just, I don't like that feeling and I used to be a very negative person, very fear driven. So that's now I'm like moving as far away from that as possible.
Well, it's funny because like I've only seen what's been the most recent 6 years, and it's been more on the positive side.
Oh, it was a transition. So yeah, I grew up very, very, very fear-based mentality.
In what way? Is that like poverty mindset or like unsafe or?
Well, I used to call it staring at the moon. So when I worked retail, because I would literally stare at the moon. So I remember it's like, to this day, I can still completely visualize it. One of our first houses we bought was off of 327 West Main Street, downtown Edmond. I was literally staring out of my kitchen window or my living room window, looking at the moon, and stressed. Super stressed. The company I worked for at the time, I was number one in the district, number one in the territory, like top 10 in the entire company at this little store in Oklahoma compared to like this whole nationwide company. And I'm going to be fired. They're going to fire. Like, I was so stressed. Like, it didn't matter how good I was doing. I always lived at that fear base. And so I was just staring at the moon. I'm like, people. And I was thinking, there's people sleeping right now. And I'm staring at the moon, stressed out about everything that could ever happen in life. And I think it was like this point. I couldn't really tell you if there was this epiphany moment, but I've always had this desire, this need to progress and change who I was. And so I think I just took that time of just really realizing, like, what's the worst can happen? What's this? And just being like, okay, and just dropping it.
How do you process that? Because that's something I go through sometimes where even if it's not work related, it may be like just life related where my brain wants to focus on what could. And for the most part, when stuff has went wrong, it's been easy to handle it. So like, how do you work through those moments? Because I feel like it's easy to get stressed, especially in entrepreneurship, but being a father, grandfather, all those things, you've got a lot of pressure. So I wonder, like, from your wisdom, how would you work through that? Because that's something I battle with.
So I think there's a lot of things to unpack in that. First, like, you use the word pressure, and pressure and stress are kind of like the same, right? And I think words are very powerful. And when we start saying, like, oh, I feel stressed, we tend to think all stress is negative, right? But if you were, say, lifting weights, if you don't apply stress when working out, you'll never get stronger. You can't, like, oh, that's a little heavy. I better back down. I need to go to the 2.5. I need to go to the 5 pound. You can lift 5 pound weights all day long. You're not gonna get bigger, right? And so there's a positive stress that you apply to your body. So for me, when I look at stress, I relate to myself, is this a positive stress or a negative stress? And for the negative stress, that we'll handle that in a minute. If it's a positive stress, I'm like, okay, this is good. We just brought on 10 agents, or I want to help these 10 agents get into production. That's a positive stress. As if we got a big event coming up, or we just bought 3 flip properties and we've got to get work done on them, right? Those are, you can look at those as negative stresses, or you can look at them as positive stresses. You go back to, okay, what are the systems and processes that make this better? Where can I do this? And so the stress becomes I wired my brain, I guess, to think about stress being a positive. I want stress in my life, right? I want stress because the more stress that I learn to handle in a positive way, it's just going to make me stronger, right? That's how a bench press goes from 135 to 185 to 225 to 215, 315. It's you're slowly applying pressure. Now, if I got underneath a bench and put 315 pounds on and the first time when I started lifting, I'd die. So I think you have to learn to apply stress in your life like a valve. Let yourself kind of be stressed in the moment, but then, okay, how do I work through this? How do I get, and then, there's probably things in your life that used to stress you out. No, I'll back up for a second. So if you've been doing this business long enough, someone's going to try to sue you. And this was probably like 15 years ago. One of our investment companies, somebody was suing us. It was completely stupid, completely bogus. We should not even been a part of it. And oh my goodness, I couldn't sleep. I was like way up all night. I'm laying in bed, like role playing court proceedings. Never even went that far, but I'm lying in bed like, yes, you're like, yes, I'm like depositioning myself and lying in bed, right? And I ran into Brad Reeser, Brad Reeser.
Yeah. I don't know him personally, but I've heard the name.
He's a really cool guy. And I ran into him outside of the Keller Williams office, and I was like, Brad, and I went to this whole thing, and he goes, "You getting sued?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "First time?" I was like, yeah. He's like, "Congratulations."
Yeah.
He goes, "You're going to get plenty more in the future if you're doing it right." And so I think from that, it became like that, okay, where can I apply the pressure? Where can I get, now when somebody says, "Oh, we're going to sue you," I'm like, all right, let me get you my attorney.
Yeah, right.
he loves to fight. So, but it's no longer stresses because I've been through it so many times. I've allowed myself to become strong in those situations.
That makes sense because like sometimes, even if it's just your daily stuff, like you said, the 10 agents or whoever it is, if you have that moment of stress, it's actually like unlocking a piece of you that's going to efficiently handle that.
Yeah.
So you're learning skills. Like you said, I never thought of it as the bench press, but maybe like in my day-to-day, when a moment gets wound up and I handle it, you can stop, be present enough to be like, no, you got wound up, but you handled it. Look at that progression, and then use it as like, oh, I did 5 curls today, then 10, then 15, or pull-ups or whatever. So that actually does help because most of the time, in my experience, when I do have that stressful moment, I don't look back and think, hey, good job handling it, though. You're just like, I handled it, yes.
We kind of remember the negative. Oh, that was so stressful. It stressed me out. Versus going like, okay, wait a minute. What happened here? Then I did this, then I did this, then I did this, and then what in the end happened? Even if it doesn't work out in your favor, it's never as bad as you think. You know what I'm saying? We're not saying like I got drunk, DUI, and killed someone.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff that we stress about aren't big deals. But even in that worst situation, you caused it, right? You got to own up to it. So if you cause a problem, okay, own up to it, take the hit, get stronger, be better from it. And then I think the second part of the stress is, like if I'm coaching somebody and they're like, oh, I'm so stressed out, or I'm like, okay, great. So tell me about your controllables. And they're like, well, what do you mean? It's like, okay, diet. We'll start physical first. How's your diet? Are you working out? And we talk about that, like, is your house clean? It's all these different things. It's like, well, or if it's a business related thing, it's like, okay, great. So how many appointments have you gone on? Well, I haven't gone on any. Okay, how many calls have you made to set an appointment? Well, I'm like, okay, so you're telling me you're stressed about money, but the reason your business, but the reason you're stressed about it is because consciously, non-consciously, there are things that you could be doing and you're not doing them. So what you're really stressed out about is that you're failing yourself. And I said, so do the controllables. So right now in your life, what can you control? I had this I have like a couple of different life mantras. And one of them, the second one that I feel like the Lord gave me was, it was when I first started like easing out of the stress. And I used to always use the phrase like, oh, I just feel like it's a runaway train. I just feel like it's a runaway train. I just feel like it's a runaway train, and I just feel like in my spirit just dropped, hijack the train. Like if you don't, take over. And so that's always been like in the situation, like, okay, my controllables, I need to hijack the train.
Yeah.
If I don't like what's going on, all right, pull out my 6 shooters, pull up my mask, take over the train, right? We're going to do this.
Yeah.
So I think controlling the controllables is the second part of it, like handling stress. Like I said, totally different from what I used to be.
Yeah, no. And just so you know, like I'm receiving it in a way that I know that you've dealt with it the other way before. So I don't take it you giving me this info as like you've had it figured out forever.
No,
so
hell no.
That's what makes it even more digestible. Is it's like, no, because there were times when he was looking at or going through the deposition on your bed trying to go to sleep. So it's nice to help. And I understand what you mean with the suing, because the first time you see it, like you get a packet at your house or something, you're like, what the hell is this?
Somebody shows up at the office, Peter Levinson, and I'm like sitting in my office and I hear, I can take it to him. Oh no, I have to hand it to him. I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, well, but I also think, and then probably the third part of that is in the control and the controllable, is at the final aspect is, are you doing the right things? Mm-hmm. And if you're doing the right thing, so it's even now like in our business, I've got 105 agents right now in the brokerage. Everyone's trying to do the right thing, but people make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so when I get that little commission letter, that I've got to respond to something, it's like, okay, are we teaching the right things? Talking to the agent, are we doing the right things? And if the answer is yes, then here's what we did. If the answer is no, I just write them back. Totally failed. Here's my DNA in it. Here's what the agent's DNA in it. And the agent says, yes, I messed up here, blah, blah, blah. And then we turn it in like, hey, it is what it is.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be a high producing brokerage and have so many well-established agents and even new ones, I mean, it's going to happen.
If someone's going to make a mistake.
Especially with doing so many transactions. And like you said, most of the time it's still doing the right thing. It's just a detail error, something like that.
If you're always trying to communicate, if you have the mindset of trying to do the right thing and you overly communicate and just always be as honest as possible, I think even if I've never gotten slapped too hard by them.
Yeah, right. No, it's interesting though, whether it's the suing or like the commission or whatever, once you are producing at a high level, it's just how it goes. I was thinking about it on my way here, where sometimes in the podcast, some people aren't as comfortable at first. And I was like, yeah, but it's like 2%. I think you'll be 119.
That's right. Yeah. That's how many you've done?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So when you said 20, I was like, he's almost 120. But that was my thought driving over here, kind of like what you're saying with, all the transactions and minimal slaps on the wrist or whatever. I was like, yeah, but it's such a low percentage. When you're producing, things are going to happen where someone might be uncomfortable for a second, or like you're saying, may make a mistake. But it's nice to know, looking back at your controllables, that that's just the nature of it.
Oh, we did 1,000 transactions, and I think we ended up with 3 complaints and share.
Amazing.
And they were, unfortunately, 2 of them were agent driven, but
you live and you learn.
Well, agent driven being like an agent turned us in.
Oh,
so
damn.
99% positive that's what happened, but
that's even more annoying.
Well, it used to annoy me, and then it became an epiphany, a realization that unfortunately most people, and I think that's why I try to be as positive as I am in things. I used to be a very negative person, but to be so positive in things, it's because I think people are sitting in, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss, but
you are.
They're sitting in shit. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard for people because if you're in shit, you've got to recognize this is my fault, whether it is or not. Like, I'm in the shit, and it's my responsibility to get myself out of shit. Mm-hmm. But most people, I think, it's very hard to be self-reflective. And the worst thing and the easiest thing is to lie to yourself. And they instead of like wanting to rise up, they want to pull other people down into the shit with them. Mm-hmm. So when I see that, I'm like, okay, let's really look at this situation. Somebody's upset about something. Well, they don't know me, and they're turning me in for what they think is a finger gun. And it's just like, no, here's what we did, and this is right. And we, like I said, we gets dismissed, but it still doesn't help that. And I'm just like, okay, so somebody out there has a perception. So let's figure out like where they're at. Mm-hmm. I jump around a lot too, but
you're great. You're great. No. There's no flow. You do your thing. This is perfect.
I used to pastor a church, and at the church we had left our it was Terrace Escalade, or one of our Escalades in the Shone at that time, but it was parked in the front. We thought, let's head to church. It's been fine. And I'm driving in. I'm on the phone with her. She was already I dropped her off at the office. I was running by the Escalade to pick up some stuff. We had left I think I had like $2,000 or $3,000 in camera equipment in there. So like all of our stuff, our marketing, our drone, everything.
Gosh.
We even had like some commission checks just dropped in the dash. Like God's my protector. Like we were totally oblivious. Didn't think nothing of it. When I got there, I'm pulling up and I'm on the phone with her, and it's on landscape pavers. Like the rims and tires gone. All the tires are gone. And I'm looking at it, but my brain couldn't comprehend what I was looking at. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And Tara's like, I'm sorry, what? I'm like, and she's like, are you, and I had just called her. So she's like, are we fighting? Like, what's going on?
Oh, yeah.
She didn't know. Like, I'm just randomly like throwing out unscripted, uncoherent cuss words because my brain is looking at something. And then I was like, and they smashed in a window, got the lock nut out. And so they can undo all the, because we put the lock nuts on there, but we keep the lock nut in the dash. You know what I'm talking about for the wheel locks?
Yeah.
I just told people now, it's like, don't even worry. They'll just smash a window. If I don't have the lock nuts, they'll take my tires. Then I'm not getting punched in the nose and in the,
Yeah, gosh.
So, but I was looking at it and I was sitting there and I was so angry, and I was so frustrated. And it had this then also just hit me. It's like, I've never been at a position in my life, thankfully, where I thought to myself, in order for me to get ahead, to get out of the shit, I need to steal some rims and tires.
Yeah. Right.
And I thought, whoever did this, for whatever reason, that's the only thing in their life that they think of. Like, in order for me to be better, in order for me to provide for my family, in order for me to have a better life, in order for me to do this, in order to experience this in my life, I've got to do this. Mm-hmm. I said, I've never been in that place. And so I was like, okay, so let's just pray for that person. Usa, breathe out.
Well, that's a great way to think about it because that's so true. Like, these people are making a decision. No matter if people make terrible decisions, it's still rationalized to them in that moment. So it's like, try to lead with some grace instead of just sitting in the shit with them.
Yeah, I think the only people who know that they're bad people are probably serial killers because they're just like, they know, like, I'm unemotional. Yeah, I'm a terrible human. I know I am.
Besides that, you just kind of like fake it till you make it.
Yeah, everyone else, I mean, nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, man, I think I'll be evil today. Mm-hmm. But it's just in their mind, they're justifying. In their mind, they're not doing the wrong thing. It's like I read this book on how to write screenplays, and I thought it was so fascinating. They said the best villains are the heroes of their own story. So if you want to write a good villain, you have to write him, and he's the hero in his story. And so you start thinking about Marvel, like Thanos. Have you seen the Marvel movies?
Yeah.
Like Thanos, everybody's like, oh, he's a bad. Well, no, in his mind, in order to save people, he's got to kill half the people. He's not a bad guy. I mean, if you watch the movies, he becomes a farmer afterwards. Like, what did you do after killing half the universe? Oh, farm some potatoes.
Yeah, right.
Like, in his mind, he's not a bad person. So when you think about when people are doing things, even I was saying agents turn it, in their mind, they're not being mean. In their mind, they're a good person. Regardless of just giving someone a call and saying, hey man, I noticed that your sign's in front of this yard, or this is this, and I noticed this. Calling people,
well, that would be a lot easier. And the reason I rolled my eyes is because you said some simple ass shit that was an issue, and that's what made me laugh. Because you're signing this, and it's like, hey, here we go.
Well, yeah, something so simple. I think one of the last things is not registering a team name. It's something that I don't know if I want to talk about that stuff, but it was they were a brokerage. They transitioned over, and the husband was a broker, and we went to submit the team name, but couldn't because they were keeping the brokerage active till the last transactions closed out.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay, we'll come back to it. And so we have our checklist, and just between discussing it and when they finally shut it down, it just had crossed our mind. His wife had already been with us for 2 months, and so it just transitioned out, and somebody saw it, somebody turned us in. And I'm like, the public's not driving around going, I don't know if that team name's registered. The public doesn't give a shit. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, that was an agent. But how much easier would it have been from an agent to call and say, hey, I just noticed this. Have you guys done this yet? Oh man, thank you so much. And the commission should be investigating actual the public being harmed. Mm-hmm. I get the rules. They put the rule together because it makes sense to me. If somebody calls and says, Purple Dinosaur team did me dirty. We don't know. Purple Dinosaur team is not registered. They have no idea who Purple Dinosaur team is. Mm-hmm. But if they can look it up and say, oh, Peter Levinson is team leader of Purple Dinosaur team, then now they can connect the team. That's why it all came about. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I think giving people the opportunity to square themselves away. I love calling brokers, and I love when brokers call me hey, one of your agents just did this. And I'm like, I'm going to murder them. And then they laugh, and I'm like, okay, I super appreciate it. And they're like, well, this is this. Like, I know this is 100% not what we teach. This is 100% wrong. That I'm super thankful. And then I call them up and I'm like, I need you to come to my office. And we're like, what's going on? I was like, did you do this? I'm like, well, yeah. Did you know this is wrong? And they're like, is it? I'm like, all right, you now have to go to every lunch and learn for the next 6 months.
Yeah. No, I mean, but that kind of made me think of something, though, is kind of how I thought of you and Tara highly, and then met you, and you all were great people. It's like the collaborative side of the real estate industry in Oklahoma City has always been the thing that stood out the most to me. Like, whether it is a broker calling you about something, somewhat negative, but also just how a lot of the high performers interact. And I think it's been really nice to see like agents helping agents, or one call, and like you said, instead of, it may not be a sign thing, but I've had agents call me and offer guidance, or vice versa. And I think that's the cool thing in it, because sometimes this real estate field can be somewhat cutthroat. So it's really nice to meet people like yourself or some of your agents, and then it be more collaborative.
Well, I think rising tide raises all ships. If we get better, we do those Thursday masterminds, and they're open up to any agent to show up. I get a lot of
and they're here at the LRE office.
Yeah, they're here at our office. And our training room, our training room, you were just here, it's on the second floor of our building. There's actually a back door that comes in and goes right up to the training room. So
by those stairs.
So you don't actually have to ever come into our brokerage. And then we purposely, when we designed it, there's no brokerage. I don't know if you notice, there's no brokerage affiliation. There's no signs. There's no logos. There's nothing. And I purposely wanted that neutral feel for it, so that, like, on the masterminds, people can come and not feel recruited, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't make recruiting calls. Like, I think there's a few agents that I've reached out to, like, I really like you in my world because you're amazing. But for the most part, that's probably why a lot of people don't know still think we're just a giant team. It's like, no, we're 90% of our agents are not. But I think we wanted that. So, like, our mastermind, they're open to any agent to come in, because we call it better together. Because if coming with a problem, what's going on in the world, if we get better, it's going to make our industry better. And if we're better in our industry, it protects what we do.
Yeah, I agree. Well, take me back a little bit, because I know you had mentioned right before we started recording becoming a father very young.
Yeah.
So where are you from? And then, like, kind of walk me through that pressure or stress, however you want to say it, of becoming a father so young.
Oh man, I was dumb. I had no pressure or stress.
You said whatever.
No, well, it was so my don't have a great relationship with my parents. Like, I haven't talked to my mom in probably 7 or 8 years. So that's a whole other long story.
So with either parents?
My dad, we talk every now and then. We text. It's strained. So not say strained. It's kind of hard. So not to talk disparagingly about my mom. She's had her own issues of how she was raised, but it was a lot of pitting against each other. And so when you're pitted against your brothers and sisters, when you're pitted against your dad, stepdads, whatever, you kind of learn just to create your own ecosystems. So like all my brothers and sisters, for the most part, we all love each other. And we'll talk. And if one of us said, hey, I need help, we'd show up. But day to day, we don't talk to each other. It's we just learn to move into our own little ecosystems from that. But saying that, so my mom, she divorced my dad when I was like about 7 years old, got remarried, and he was in the Air Force, and he would bounce around. So I would move from New York, which is where I'm originally from, to Texas, back to New York. Like I think one time I counted, I moved like 5 times in 2 years back and forth.
Wow.
From New York to Texas, New York to Oklahoma, New York to Oklahoma, New York to Texas, New York to Japan. I lived in Japan for 4 years, off and on for the most part. And then and then I was living in New York again my freshman year. So like I said, just mostly lived with my grandparents in New York.
In New York City or somewhere else?
A suburb of New York City. So it's New Rochelle, which is like, it's right outside of the Bronx area.
Okay.
So it's, my family's Italian, mostly Italian. A little bit of Jewish, that's where the last names come from, but mostly Italian. As my grandmother would say, you're Italian. If you say anything else, I'll punch you in the face. She used to tell me that a lot. Everybody's like, grandmas are sweet. Like, not mine. I was like, hey, grandma, can I wear your Mets jacket to school? If you lose it, I punch you in the face. I was like, okay, grandma. So, but anyway, so my freshman year of high school, moved to Oklahoma. I was living with my mom for a little bit. which probably would have been like 6 months to a year. And then met Tara. We joke around. The first words I ever said to her was, "You're a bitch." So,
and that's the key to how long you all lasted right there.
No, well, the key came later. No, so what happened? I used to, like I said, not a great home life. So I would go home and do all my homework and read all the books and everything. And so when I would get to class, I would like sleep or not pay attention and and I had a couple of classes with her. And but when I would take tests in English class, I would answer all the questions and then I would hold my paper up and be like, and I would let everyone behind me copy. So I said, hey, Tara. I said, hey, I didn't even think, I said, hey, Tara. I was like, she's like, you look back at me. I was like, and Tara was straight A student. Like if she could take an AP class, she took the AP class. You know, her GPA was like stupidly high. But I was like, hey, can I borrow a piece of paper? And she's like, you're just going to let everybody cheat off of you. I'm like, oh, what a bitch. First conversation between Tara and I. But then fast forward, we kind of like bumped into each other. Like she was like a cheerleader in high school, and all the good stuff. And I was like the guy like, oh, we're fighting? Let's do this. Like I was the guy when somebody called me like, hey, we're going to fight. I'm like, let's do it. And I weighed like 132 pounds. I was just like, let's do this.
Yeah, just ready to go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. But,
well, dealing with all that crazy home life and bouncing around and stuff, you had your own identity. You're like,
it's funny because people now, like, or not now as much now because of social media and everything else, but like after I got back from the Marine Corps for like 4 or 5 years after I got back, we would run into people that knew us growing up. And like I remember we were like at the store and this girl was like, oh my goodness, what happened to that? Ever happened to that? Like we're in full conversation. I was like, whatever happened to that guy that you dated in high school? And Tara's like, Peter? It's like, that's him. It's like, no. The guy you dated like all through high school. And I was like, that's him. And they were like, that's you. And I'm like, it's like, wow, you are different. Because I was
that's hilarious.
So like people didn't even recognize the difference in personalities that I had back then. But anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, you must have been wild.
I was just different. I did what I wanted to do, wore what I wanted to do. If I woke up and thought, I'm going to wear a kung fu gi to school, I would. If I wanted to wear baggy camouflage pants and whatever, I just wore whatever I wanted to do, did what I wanted to do up from my freshman and sophomore years until, and then I think that's what was so dynamic is, like I said, I had maybe 2 conversations with Tara, like direct conversations in a year and a half. And then I called her up one day. I was just sitting there. I was like, I kind of saw her and I'd always kind of like, man, I was seeing her from afar. I was like, man, I just really want to call her. And so I called her up on the phone and I said, I'm polite. I'm like, hello, this is, is Tara there? And she was like, hi, Peter. And she knew my voice. And like 2 conversations, she had knew my voice and stole my soul. I was like, done with that. I felt like, to me, it was like a huge deal. Like somebody saw me. That makes sense?
Yeah.
When you feel unseen?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So.
Especially when you're saying you had to create your own ecosystem because your house was so chaotic.
Yeah. So that was like it. And then, I think it was, she had a very, her story is her story. I don't ever tell her story. She had a very chaotic upbringing as well, way more chaotic than, it always cracks me up when people are like, they're like, well, you don't understand. You just had the great upbringing. And Tara's like, the fuck I did. It's like, you have no idea.
Well, I do respect too that you like let her tell her story. Is. That's really nice of you.
And we kind of like had this too chaoticness, and we were both 15 at the time, and she was like, "Hey, maybe if we had a baby, we could just get away from all this."
Holy crap, y'all thought it through.
Oh, it was planned. Are you kidding? I was like, I knew it. Like that was like, this is my person. Like I knew it from once you knew my voice, I knew this. So to me, it was like, it just seemed a natural progression. So again, I'm a 15-year-old boy, like hormonal, never been with a girl. And she's like, I want you to get me pregnant. I'm like, I will do my best. I am there. And this is how dumb we were. Cause like, I remember she was like, I think I'm pregnant. We went to, I think it was off of May. We went to the Planned Parenthood. She went in, came out. She's like, I'm pregnant. I picked her up, spun her around. We were happy. And I was like, I'm going to get a job. And so, I worked all through high school. I would work from, and I ended up moving out like 3 days after my 16th birthday. Didn't know where to go. And her parents let me stay with them for a while.
Wow.
But yeah, so I would go to school, get out of school at 2:20. And by 3 o'clock, I was at a job and worked till 10, 11 o'clock at night. So I'd work 40 to 55 hours a week, as many hours as I can get. Starting at 50, like I said, at I think it was before we started. Yeah. I told them, like, oh, I'm 16.
Yeah, at the McDonald's, right?
Yeah, I needed money. I needed a job. And so then just progressed. And then I joined the Marine Corps. I had a baby.
At what age then? 18?
17.
You joined at 17?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had my 18th birthday a week before I graduated.
Wow.
So the judge signed for us to get married because when we wanted to wait. We ended up deciding, let's finish high school. So we both graduated high school. I joined the Marine Corps at the beginning of my senior year. And then, because I was like, got to do something. And then so.
You had some focus, though, because, like, I know having a kid early is not always the best decision, but, like, you're like, no, we're going to have a child. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to join the Marines. You're, like, kind of on it.
Well, hindsight, it probably sounds like that, but I think it was just, again, like, I call it the worm stage of my life. As a human being, I was kind of worms, like I wasn't like a man. I already talked very negative about toxic masculinity, but I thrive. I think the problem is, I call it modern man syndrome. I think men today need to be more toxic as the word. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but to understand what I mean, it's like there's not this. You got to be the man that wants to build cities. Like obviously, I'm married to a very strong woman. She will outwork. If you challenge her to a physical labor, you will lose. Mm-hmm. She will outwork any man. Like she will work 24 hours and go till she will defeat you.
She will die doing it.
She will. And she still to this day. Like I swear I keep telling her to buy a blow dart.
Take some rest.
It's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
She'd be like, why are you always talking about leaving? I'm like, babe, it's like 9:30. Like we should be going home. Like people.
Yeah.
So, but I'm kind of lost track. But it was like it was needing to do the right thing. It was like needing to, like this desire to be better, but not knowing how to be better. Like I think about like a lot of these younger guys. I don't know how old you are.
How old do I look?
I put you in your mid to late 20s.
33.
33, huh?
There we go.
Good for you.
I must be taken after you.
Yeah.
Because you don't look 49.
But, I think about like Cam and Bert.
Cam.
Like Cam's like this, like I'm so thankful to have been a part of some of his journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned it earlier with being, in the beginnings.
Yeah.
And Cameron's an amazing guy.
He is. And so, it's...
And Eddie on your LRE. Eddie Berto.
Same thing. Yeah, same. Being part of these guys, being part of their story. But it's like, these guys are young. Mm-hmm. Like, man, I couldn't even fathom that what existed in the world back then or what could be done. And so to me, I think about, like, I was just like, why did I join the Marine Corps? Why did I become a Marine? Well, I joined the military because I knew I needed some structure. Mm-hmm. I had always thought Marines were, as a kid, I always thought that was so cool. They're like knights and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is going to make me, I need to become a man, That
makes sense though, because like in my progression, that's how I felt, is like, okay, I'm going to go to school next. Okay, I'm going to try and get a better job. Cause like I was so lost that I was like, let me just move to this next step. So I'm not like completely falling off. Cause to your work, to what you said, I was talking with Eddie and we were having this good conversation about travel. And I was like, yeah, but don't talk to me too much, man. You're way more focused and what you've got going is working way better than, hiding out with your backpack. And he just started laughing because like you said, at 22, 23, however old they are, I wasn't thinking as progressively. It was like, what's the next step to just like make sure I'm not a failure?
Well, I thought everything was like the traditional. Join the Marine Corps, and then I got out of the Marine Corps and like get a corporate job, work the corporate ladder, do the best I can. And so I was doing all go get my bachelor's degree, get my master's degree. It's like work full time, do all these different things, but I had no idea like the entrepreneur. Like didn't know what an entrepreneur was, and I think I was so fear based. I don't think at that younger age, like getting into real estate. Like Tara got into real estate in 2003, and then I joined her in 2007. But it was like at a cusp of her for like a year wanting me to join, me being around a lot of negative influences or the wrong, bad company corrupts good character, 100%. I traveled all the time. I'd leave on a Monday, come home on a Friday. The company I was working for at the time, I was in the territory management. So I covered Oklahoma, part of Texas, all Louisiana, and part of Mississippi. So and then I would also travel the country and teach events for the company, like sales events. So they're doing this event here, so I'd go teach this. And so I was always somewhere. And it just came to a point of like, she's always wanted to be with me, which is just like, I got married so a man would sleep in my bed. it's either going to be you or somebody. I was like, I'm tribute.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yeah.
So I was very blessed in that when we were in that turbulent time in our relationship that the company came in and was doing a reorganization. And so technically my job was let go. And they were like, we want to move you over here. And I'm like, well, what's the severance? And they're like, oh, we got a job for you. But like, what's the severance? So I took the severance. We went to Mexico for a week just to kind of reconnect. And then just got my license and joined her in 2007.
Wow. So. And that was after the Marines and some of the corporate job, or you were still, okay.
Yeah. I got in the Marine Corps in 99 and like I said, did the corporate stuff for like 8 years.
That's so crazy. Something, if you feel comfortable speaking about, I'm curious. With your relationship, when you said it was going through like a turbulent time, what was it like, not rekindling, but whatever word you used for that, when you all locked back in and was able to progress? Like, what is that like? Because I've been with my significant other for 8 years, and I feel like and I know that's not as long as you all, but there was a little period where it got shaky when it was like, maybe I was stretching myself too thin and like trying to do too much. Mm-hmm. And then when we refound it, it was like really motivating for us, but also like in my work, and just I started being better in my other avenues. Can you speak to that? Did you like improve after reconnecting, not only just with her, but in your normal life, or did it have any effect?
No, it had a huge effect. One, there was a strong commitment to rebuilding the relationship. So like, I think I read 20 marriage books in like first year or two, just was always just every marriage book that I could find, I was in, and not all marriage books are like, the 5 love languages, I think that we're talking like, there was there's the 4 seasons of a marriage, love and respect. And those are some of the better ones. There's one book but some of them were also like understanding women, mm-hmm. or understanding myself as a man. There was one I read, it's like a married superwoman, now what? And I was like, oh, yeah, I got to read this book. Yeah. Because, and it was just like 100%. Like, it was pretty funny in this book. This guy talks about, goes, my wife wanted to get gravel for the driveway. And so I look outside the window and she's driving a dump truck full of gravel. My wife's never driven anything, a tow truck, but nothing. She's never driven anything but a minivan. Mm-hmm. And she's driving down the road in this 2-ton, but and I was like, oh yeah. And that was the greatest terror. I was like, we need gravel. And she had ordered a we live on 5 acres, but she had ordered a semi truck full of gravel. For like 5 years, when you drove through our driveway, which is a big driveway, it sounded like you were driving through water because it was like 6 inches deep.
And I had to pack.
It was like some people couldn't drive up it because they're like, my car bottoms out when there's so much gravel. Like, she had ordered so much of it. But so it was just kind of like understanding that, like, hey, how do you deal with, a very strong woman? That makes sense? Mm-hmm. A lot of people will like meet Tara and they'll think that like, oh, she has a lot of masculine energy, right? And what they don't understand is like, everyone has masculine and feminine energy, right? Mm-hmm. Like when I was younger, I probably operated more in feminine energy, which doesn't bode well in a relationship. I think there has to, she was looking for masculine energy, but I was giving off a lot of feminine energy.
And what way would be an example of the feminine?
So the easiest pertains to an argument, and this is not Peter. This is like what psychiatrists and psychologists say. So feminine energy, like in an argument, would be defensive. Tends to be a feminine type of energy. When you think of terms of like women, like tend to expound, right? So when you're thinking when you're in an argument, and if your spouse is like you're defending yourself, it usually makes her matter. Right?
Yeah.
Even versus because it's considered like more of a feminine energy. And both, if you're both defending yourself, there's both feminine energy. It doesn't work. Mm. So masculine energy is more like that taking responsibility, that more like ownership of the situation, good, bad, and different. That makes sense?
Yeah. And so the reason I'm asking these questions is because I've went through these seasons and then continuously, hit different levels of this. So the reason I'm so intent in asking is because it really helps. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so I understand the defensiveness, or like maybe making an excuse or something.
Making excuses, or so you think about in terms of masculine energy has that very take charge, take over. I used the term toxic before. I think it's where people like to live. I think it's a very misnomer. Mm-hmm. Masculine energy holds the door open, and feminine energy walks through the door. which is, in my opinion, a queen should walk through the door.
Right.
The king should be holding the door open.
Yep.
The king is the one who serves. Scripturally speaking, it's like I used to counsel or do relationships, and they're like, well, the Bible says you're supposed to submit. And I just don't believe that. And I'm like, but did you read what the man's supposed to do? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, it says the wife is to submit to the man as we submit to Christ. It's like, yeah. I was like, what does it say the man's supposed to do? And they're like, die. I would be as Christ. I was like, and what did Christ do? Die. It's like, yes, you have to listen. He has to die. I said, but if he's willing to die for you, and that's why I look at the man. It's like the reason you're not willing to die for her. I always think it's the man's fault personally. I'm always like, so I was looking at the man like, you're not willing to die for her. If you're willing to die for her, then she will follow you, because she wants that. Feminine energy wants that. I heard this quote the other day, and it sat with me for so long, and it's just like in the last week, and I've been wanting to embody it. And and I remember where it came from, but it said that a hero will sacrifice the woman to save the world. A villain will sacrifice the world to save the woman. And I sat there for like 24 to 48 hours. I was like, fuck, I want to be a villain.
Yeah.
At least I want my wife to feel like,
right.
and I see that
what a fucked up decision to make. If like you're ever put in that spot, you'd be so torn.
Well, but I think we do run into those situations. Honestly though, it was like, we were getting off of a plane once, and that's what I've like a few short fuses in my life, but planes, when people just rush forward.
Are you talking about when it lands? Yes. And all you hear is the
yes. And somebody like went to push like my wife and my kids, like started to push past them, and I stood up and I thought I was like, you can see the rage, like every vein. I was like, and to me that's where it is. Like that to me was like, I will hurt you if you do. I was like, do not push my wife. Do not push my children. Are you understanding me? And they're just looking at me, and you can see people are looking around like, oh, this is about to go down.
And it's just really setting healthy boundaries, if anything.
But that's the thing. It's like sometimes we'll just be like, have you ever heard of the snowflake test?
No, I don't think so.
So here's the snowflake test. If somebody comes to you and says, somebody spits on your significant other, what do you do? And the snowflake test, if you go, well, I asked, like, what happened? Baby, what'd you do? What's going on here? Failed. Somebody spits on Tara, they're getting the shit beat out of them. And then I'm going to be like,
what happened?
What happened?
I mean, it's so funny. Like, in my head, it clicked. I'm like, spit is like ultimate. That's high up.
Like, there's no, like, I don't care what she did. Somebody spits on her. I'm going to, as a human, what I want to do is I want to come undone.
You may not even, like, fully understand what you would do.
No.
Like, we're talking about it now, but that's like, you see someone spit on you. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The immediate should be it.
Yeah.
And I can't, but I'll be honest, there was a point in time that wasn't me. I was like, whoa, let's calm the situation down. And that's where you're willing to you're willing to sacrifice the world or sacrifice your woman to save the world. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where it comes in.
Like, those are examples.
Yeah. It's not the big thing. It's the things like, are you willing to let your significant other take the hit so you can make somebody else feel okay? So somebody else is not some stranger, some person who means so little to you, and just not some mean like I'm a follower like Jesus, but still, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but it's just being real.
Yeah, it's like, hey, it's like, God's loving you in this moment. I'm not.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's where I think that sacrifice the world is, and I think that's where. I think that's one of the big things that's missing in relationships. That's what's missing in relationships.
That's such a great point, because like there have been times where I bet, looking back now, that's where I may have failed in a moment. Is maybe it was like, oh, world instead of wife, or vice versa. So I definitely can understand that, because there were times like where, like, say our jiu-jitsu journey, where we were in a masculine, like, energy, I guess. Not saying like a male-dominated area, but it's masculine energy with that type of combat sport.
Yeah, it is, 100%.
And sometimes she would be dealing with a problem, and, like, I would think she could handle it because we were in that mode.
You think yes, and I am a huge, I fail at that constantly in meetings, especially like with our family meetings, like, cause I'm thinking, okay, we're all together, and I'm thinking she can, and a lot of times that was a mistake I made. It's like, oh, Tara's strong. She can exert it. But in those moments, she didn't want to have that masculine energy. And when I say masculine and feminine energy has nothing to do with men and women, male and female, gender. It has to do with, I know couples that have amazing relationships, and the female in the relationship is running at like 80-90% masculine energy, and the husband is feminine energy. That's just where he lives, and they have great relationships. You'll see that in, I don't know if this will get me in trouble, but you ever see like a couple, like a lesbian or gay couple? You always go like, oh, that's the man, or that's the woman, right? And it's like, you're not being offensive about it,
but it's instant.
What you're saying is like, oh, that's the person in the relationship that has masculine energy, and that's the person in the relationship that has feminine energy. Even in same-sex relationships, there's always a stronger feminine energy and a stronger masculine energy, because it's attractive. That's what you're attracted to, is that energy.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
no, and I like it because something else that my wife had brought up, it was maybe a year ago or so, when we took a break from jiu-jitsu and we started doing rock climbing. She was like, I'm just wanting to put that masculine energy to the side. She's like, I've kind of like Tara, tough upbringing, always protected herself, always handled business, lived on her own, did all these things. And she's like, I'm kind of just done with the armor all the time. So I'm going to lean into this. And like you saying that just hit home, because I do get it.
Well, I don't know if that's probably a testament to you, though. Because if she's grew up having to have masculine energy, it's because she feels safe. Women want three things. They want to feel heard, they want to feel seen, and they want to feel safe. If you do those things, you will own a woman. You make her feel seen, you make her feel heard, and make her feel safe, own the world, right?
No, I appreciate that, because it's always someone from the outside looking in that will be able to give some perspective. And I also like that, now that we're on this topic, and I sense that you and Tara would be this way, where since you all have known each other so long, you all probably have very high level conversations about each other, the family, the business. Like, I'm sure you all are pretty open in communication. And I feel like that's something that's helped me on my side, is she's like, oh, well, I need more masculinity in this area, or you need more feminine or masculine in this area. And it's nice to hear you talk through it, because it's progressions that all people go through. So I think it's a healthy thing for people to realize that maybe instead of just like sitting in the shit and panicking because they're going through a transition, like just kind of learn from it. Like you said, like process it and keep going.
Well, we've got to this, I think for us, we didn't have this for many years, this table is a good example of it. I call it the meadow and the cliff. So the meadow being, most relationships live on the cliff, being that at any moment, one person either wants to jump, thinking about jumping, could jump in the relationship. And if we're having a conversation, you and I are in a conversation, and I feel like at any minute you're going to jump off, or you think I'm going to jump off, you're not going to be able to have open conversations.
No, it'd be a lot more defensive, or like not trying to offend you or something.
Yeah, and so it's like, how can you ever like grow to the deeper things if you always think that, if you think your spouse is going to leave at any moment, or could leave, or find someone else, like, well, if they don't get what I'll just find someone else. It'll be a little side hustle on the side. Just to, if you think that, you are never going to be open. Right. But when you get to the meadow being like so far away from the cliff, if somebody wants to leave, they got a long fucking way to run. Like they might be running towards the edge, but you got some time. Yeah. You got some time to catch up to them.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's interesting because like I'm talking to someone that's obviously been with their significant other for that 16, so 26, 36, 46, over 30 years.
Yeah.
30, I'm 33. So the same amount of time I've been alive.
Yeah. So yeah, when Tara and I started dating, you had just been born.
Just born. So it's nice to hear, like I said earlier, when I've met people like yourself that are successful, established, and multi-layered, that it's a common theme. And that's like a blessing to hear. Like, yeah, so everyone's been on the cliff.
Oh, yeah.
But like, let's work on the meadow. And my wife and I were talking yesterday. We were running errands in the morning. And she was like, yeah, like we work so great together. And she was being funny. She was like, if you left me or I left you, like we'd have to still figure out something, how to like be a part of each other's life. And she's like talking shit, and I just laughed. She's like, because we just work so well together. And she wasn't even thinking of like cliff moment. She's like, but if a cliff ever came, we're gonna have to like figure out a parachute or something, because we seem to work well together. And it's like, I didn't have that before, and we've went through ups and downs, but it's like we've hit that like second wind to where it's like, no, now we work on things, and like it's less of the cliff side and like building in the middle, maybe, from what you're saying.
Well, when in your relationship, though, I mean, you've got to also realize, like, some people have the don't go to bed angry. Mm-hmm. Tara and I are not that way. So
you'll go to sleep, huh?
Oh my goodness, she will, because she's fiery, and she'll just like, we're not going to say anything nice to each other right now. So I'm going to go sleep in the other room, so I don't say anything really fucking mean. And I'm like,
people need to know that, because if you're with someone for a long period of time and you all are actual like thinking human beings, you should have that moment. Be like, hey, like I remember one time, and this isn't arguing, but I remember, and it ended up being such a great moment in my life. She was like, hey, you're acting so sporadic. I was just really like stressed, but also needed to give myself a break. I was like too high strung. She's like, hey, pack your stuff, go camp overnight. You got to go. You got to get out of here. And I remember taking my motorcycle and going to Paladero Canyon, sleeping in a tent, hiking all the next day, coming back the next day. And I was like, I'm good. And it's like, or you all can be up each other's ass thinking that like it's going to fix itself. And then you just drive apart, instead of like understanding that you are two singular human beings that choose to be apart. That doesn't mean like stop working on the individual. Yeah. So it's like, that's a tough thing for people too. I'm sure.
That's the meadow, when you can be like, hey, we're not getting along. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, go down that side.
Well, that's what it shows me. Like, you need to go on a guy trip. Mm-hmm. You've been around ladies. When it was just, like her, two girls, all feminine energy in the house. Like, you need to go on a guy ski trip. You need to go punch something. Like, go do some manly shit.
It's so funny. Like, I grew up with all women. So my mom and dad divorced when I was like 4. My dad was always around. I had great grandparents, grandpa, all that. But daily life was me, my sister, and my mom. And my sister and mom would fight all the time. So it was just like, I grew up like walking on eggshells, because like at any moment, like I could catch him on a bad day, or I could be the problem. So like when we would get together, or when Rachel and I got together and started building, she's like, hey, like, I'm not getting on to you, or I don't think you're a fuck up, or I don't think this, or I don't think this. When I'm telling you something, it's purely just for that. And like that helped me progress through her. She's like, hey, you need to go do something with your friends. Like, hey, you need a guys' night, or you all need to go play pool, or go shoot guns, or just do something. Because like, I think growing up, I was so used to that pressure that I started getting comfortable in it.
So would you say you grew up in with more feminine energy?
I would think so. I think my grandfather on my dad's side, who I get all my native heritage from, I feel like he taught, looking back now, his masculine energy was super strong and like consistent. But I think that since my daily life was with my mom and my sister, and then the other person I spent the most time with was my grandfather's wife, my tutu, she's from Hawaii, that I was very used to being around women. And I think until I found basketball and started making more friends, that was like, I think why I also latched onto those like boys so much, where I was like, these are my guys, like these are my brothers I never had, because I grew up like this. So I would definitely think, because even still now, I check myself. Like I was I went to a therapy session I think it was 4 months ago. And she was like, hey, and it's so simple, but she was like, hey, when you think of a excuse or a defense, just pause. It's kind of like when people tell you to talk without filler words.
Yeah.
When you think you're going to say, just pause. And I think if I don't stay on top of it, even though it's not something that comes up in my daily life, if I don't stay on top of it, I do resort back to that feminine energy where it's like defensive or not wanting to get in trouble or things like that. Because I was just always because they would fight so hard that I almost felt like I needed to be not perfect, but like unseen, unheard type of thing. Mm-hmm. Because like, I don't want to add to this, because they're already going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I think when I met Rachel, who's a very strong woman, similar to Tara, where you had mentioned the dump truck.
Yeah.
My wife woke up on a Tuesday. So I don't know if you've seen any of my social media of me riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
She woke up on a Tuesday and was like, I want a bike. And I was like, okay. And she was like, let's go get one right now. And I was like, okay. So we drive to a place, she buys one, and then I bought one after that because she was like, no, I said I wanted one, so I want one now. So I think meeting her helped me, in a way, discover more masculinity, but maybe like you said earlier, which I haven't really thought of, so it's really nice of you to say, that maybe giving her some safety and some structure helped her like pass that masculinity on. And kind of maybe we exchanged is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think it lives in all of us. You know, we make up for the gaps, or we make up for where we need to fill in. You know, like I said, I grew up without any really strong masculine figure. Like I had a grandfather, my dad, your stepdad, but they were 20% of the time versus 80% of the time. So mostly raised under feminine energy.
Yeah, me too.
So, you know, that was like, nobody was like, you know, my stepdad, when he was raising me, was a pacifist. So now he's not. But like, I came home with a toy gun and he was like, we don't have guns in these houses. So like, you know, so like even that part, it's just like, okay, I'll go play with flowers. You know, it's like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
You know, like I was craving it, but didn't know where it came from. So, you know, I just stepped into like, I thought that's how you were. So arguments, conversations, all those things. And so that pushed Tara to have to be more masculine in the relationship, you know, because she felt unsafe. If she feels unsafe, she had to protect herself and be strong. So I think it was just like years of just like hearing that and finding like the slow click. I always tell her, like, if I live to be 200, I'm going to be amazing. Just hang out. Just keep hanging out. I'm going to get there.
I'm the long term.
I am. Yeah. I'm a long-term project. I'm like, yeah, what the East has got to rise.
That's so true. They develop faster, especially strong, independent women like the ones we're talking about. They just developed quick, where maybe we had to kind of dissect a few more things.
Well, I think, and I don't think that, I think, like, talking about the energy, I don't think you have to be a woman with masculine energy to be successful.
No.
You can have strong feminine energy to be successful, and vice versa. So I think, I love those conversations. I think they help us understand who we are in our relationships. But at the end of the day, it's like, who's the most important people in your life? Right. And this person's supposed to be your spouse, or, you know, I was talking to a lady this morning and at a doctor's office, and she was like, you can tell like something was on her mind. I was like, hey, how was your holidays? She's like, they were okay. And I was like, okay, that didn't sound like she was giving me an answer, but you can tell like I was like, I didn't even know her name. She's never met this nurse before. I'm like, I don't know, what's really going on? I'm just like, well, I had to spend it with my soon to be ex. And she's like, oh my goodness, not too much TMI. I'm like, no, go on. What's going on? And, you know, and she's breaking it all down. It's like, basically, she loves the guy, but he'd rather play Call of Duty than spend any time with her. Call of Duty than help out. Call of Duty than do anything around the house. Call of Duty. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. This guy's like living his life in a video game, and his wife is like begging for attention. And he's willing to, you can tell like she does not want to divorce, but she's like, what's the option? Live a life alone where he becomes a level 32 commando? I don't know anything about that. I don't know. Like, I don't play the game enough. Like, once every like 6 months, I'll pick up a video game. After, I feel like nothing else can be done, right? But I don't have a disparagement on it. It's just like, it just blew my mind. I'm just like, man, like how much I think in society, like, I don't know, use women as an example, they're just crying out for that, you know?
What changes did you notice in your relationship, like once you did embrace that?
Once I started making those changes, a lot less stress on her, a lot more freedom to be her. Honestly, just even a better joy and happiness in myself,
mm-hmm.
you know, because I feel like it's who I want to be.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, having to, like we're talking about earlier, like dying to yourself, like dying for your spouse, like that parts of me had to die. Mm-hmm. You know, I have an obsessive personality, so not compulsive, but I am from the OCD. I am obsessive. If I get into something, the world's gone, and so I have to be very, very careful on that. And I think and I think what attracted her, what in her life she didn't have a lot to herself that was hers, and obsessive personality, I became very obsessive with her. And so she loved that. And I kind of got away from that. I kind of lost myself. And I think that was like that for her. It was like when that obsessiveness came out and realizing it, that's where we kind of live. And so I'm like, and that's where I'm the happiest. I don't know. We always say, like, our kids always say that we're very, I don't want to use words dysfunctional, or what is the word that they use? We're probably, I think some people feel like we're probably unhealthy, but we're like these two broken pieces that fit perfectly together. She always says, like, oh, a lot of guys have flirted with me. They have no idea who I really am. Like, they could not handle what you handle on a daily. And it's the same thing with me. Like, I recognize that. Like, people are like, you're such a good husband. I'm like, no.
My gosh.
You could not handle the madness that lives in here.
That's why I'm laughing, because we've said that exact sentence to each other, where it's like, I don't, literally, I'm like, yeah, but they may not want to pick up your tab. Like, they may not want a piece of this. And she's like, yeah, you're right. But they wouldn't want to deal with you either. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right. And that's why it fits so perfect. And that's why when done the right way, and hopefully I can say the same thing in 25 more years of us being together so I can catch up to you all. It's like, that's where the growth happens though. Yeah. It's like you all fit, like all that shit you went through. Like now you all are like creating a piece, and like a physical piece and a piece. 'Cause it's like, that's where it happens. You weren't able to work on those things individually. So it's like together, and you all starting as children, you all had to develop in a lot of ways.
I think a lot of people, honestly, I think if everyone really looked at their relationship, they would realize that that's probably how really every relationship is.
Yeah. It's like a business partner, but not, and I don't mean that insensitive. Like, you usually get people that are better at other things than you.
We're all these broken pieces. And I don't mean, again, I don't mean broken like broken in spirit, but we're not perfect.
Yeah, I guess you could say like shaped differently.
Yes, but every relationship, I think so many people are looking for that perfect the perfect clip. Mm-hmm. And it's sometimes you got to chew off some of the edges to make the piece go in.
You got to push it down a little bit.
Yeah, you got to work it. You know, like you got to when it fills up. But I think it's like nobody's perfect together. I mean, it's just. But, like little things, it's like Tara and I, we work, like literally my office, we have a little kitchen in between and her office, and we talk all day long. But at the end of the day, I always ask her the same thing. Hey, babe, how's your day? And that is it's become like a reset in our minds. Like, we went from being business partners, because she'll come in the office and be like, what the fuck did you just do? And I'm like, girl, back up. Like, and people are like, Mom and Dad are fighting.
Yeah.
Because we'll have those hard business conversations, which you have to.
Well, especially with you all, like you all have a relationship at a high level and a business at a high level.
Oh yeah,
so that's so much.
We're running different companies. We're, our kids are here. We'll get into it with our kids, with, not our grandkids yet, but they're here too. But you have to be able to different hat it. Like, hey, okay, yeah, I made you mad today at work, but that was then. Like, we're husband and wife. Now we're making dinner, sitting on the couch, having a conversation. Mm-hmm. So I think that being able to, and it goes back to that metal thing, that you have to be able to make those different switches. And I think if people get away from that, oh, everything's got to be perfect and everything has to be this. I mean, we were in Costa Rica, and like for 4 or 5 days, we reckoned, like, we were like, our gears were starting to grind. And we were like, let's go on a hike. And so we went on this hike, and after like spending like 2 hours, like going up and down and checking stuff out and just laughing and talking, we felt the gears reconnect. Mm-hmm. And I was like, babe, she was like, oh, we were been at each other. We've been saying some mean stuff to each other. Like, not purposefully, just like a little off. I don't think nobody else noticed it. We noticed it.
Yeah, but the reason I acted like I perked up when you said it is because I thought of it in a positive way. I always think that's so good with your significant other when you can say, like, not just sorry, but like, yeah, I was overreacting. Yeah. I didn't mean that earlier. And like that, just like we're talking about the metal, that's where the growth happens. Because some people will be in a position where like they're too proud, or they don't want to be wrong, or all these things, instead of just being like, hey, yeah, we were kind of, we may have just been hungry, or we were this, or we were this. And it's like, I don't know. I think that's probably the epitome of like finding that irregular piece that fits yours, because there's nothing better.
I agree. And I think that's where, wow, I think this turned into a relationship conversation.
I know. Wait, no idea.
Yeah.
Well, you never know where it's going to go.
So, but yeah.
Switching gears then, because seeing you in Costa Rica kind of made me think of it. Was it the Marines, or just your normal personality? Like, are you disciplined with your time for a specific reason, or why is it important to you? Because like this morning you posted, how'd you start your day? And I saw that. And like, when I see stuff like that from good people, it's more motivating than it's like, oh, well, look at this asshole. It's like, I saw that and I'm like, what am I doing with my morning? And literally today, when I saw your post, I went through like, what do my mornings look like? And I'm like, I like those. Like, not that I needed to compare it to yours, but like, it gave me a moment to check. So I was just curious, like, did you learn that? Have you always been that way? Why is it important to you? You seem disciplined in that way.
No, I was not always that way at all. Like I said, who I am today is nothing who I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I always say that's the reason I know time travel is not ever going to happen, because I would show up and beat the shit out of myself. Like, you know what you did. But no, I'm unrecognizable. You know, which is, we've been together a long time. And so even when we get into a fight, so like, what were you thinking then? I'm like, babe, I don't even know that person, you know. Or when somebody asks me, like, what were you like then? It's like, I can pretend. I can describe that person, but I couldn't describe why that person did what they did. That makes sense? Like, I can say who I was, but I couldn't tell you why the person made that decision, because I don't think that way anymore.
Yep.
But no, the morning routine was, I'm very specific. Like, when I'm coach people, I'll ask people, one of the first things I like to set up is a morning routine. You know, everyone has one. It's whether or not that routine serves you or not. And so people get up, they're always doing something. And for me, and I don't consider the morning routine like working out and all that. My morning, there's certain things I like. I have a daily incantation that I do. I have a daily reset that I do. There are things that I can do no matter where I am in the world, right? But I think that to me, it's that there's a discipline involved. That's why I posted. So thank you. I'm glad to hear that you saw it for what it was supposed to be, which was to make people stop and go, what do I do? You know?
Yep. And maybe if you're too like, you know, when you were saying earlier, when you know what you're not doing, if you're too in that space, then you're going to see a post like yours and like be pissed off or like be mad at yourself. But if you're trying, when you see something like that, you take it as a motivation.
You should be like, okay, well, yeah, like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it should make the self-reflect. I go, what did my morning, am I setting my day up to support myself? You know? So no, I had to create those over time, because I realized a couple of things. Like, some people can just get up and go. I am a taxi around the runway. You know, I have to reconfigure, pack everything back in, organize out. Like, I've got to figure out, like, I had a guy did this conversation. He's like, every day is like coming back from a hike. Every morning you wake up, you unpack, you hike.
Yep.
If you leave certain stuff in there, it's not good, right? Yep. So when you get done camping, you unpack your pack and you take out everything, and anything you don't want, you put everything back that you want to keep in there, and everything else you get rid of. And so to me, like, every day I look at, like, part of my daily reset is I reflect, like, okay, you know, I'm not just sitting in a cold plunge, like, I'm in there, like, reflecting, getting my mind off of 32-degree weather, 50-degree weather, right? And I'm thinking, okay, what is yesterday that I did well? What is yesterday I did not do well? Okay, well, I'm not packing. That doesn't get to go in my pack today. And then the next day, it's like, somehow it got back in there. So every day I'm trying to work out the things that I don't want to bring with me every day. Right. You know, I try to do like a steam room, cold plunge if I'm home. You know, I try to work out every day. Working out is just more of it's a hobby. I love doing it. So I try to do those things. But yeah, it's every morning. Am I setting my mind up to take on the day?
Well, and you said something good too. The first thing you said was, what did I do well? And I think a lot of people, and even myself, are more guilty of like just looking at the negative instead of the positive affirmations as well. I remember when I was going through a big struggle, just in my daily routine, I was just in a funk, and my wife was like, hey, you need to do affirmations every day, because like in the mornings you're off. And like, then it became so normal that I have them written on my mirror and stuff like that. But it's like, you got to start with the good sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like, here's what you did well. Here's what you didn't. Let's focus on the good, minimize the bad, but don't tear yourself up.
Well, when you focus on the good first and you come from gratitude, when you look at the things that you're getting rid of, you don't look at them and as you despise them, because you're like, well, I've got all this good. I'm like, okay, and I'm recognizing I don't want to bring this. This is awesome. Right? It's different when you start with a negative. You know, it's like, I use this thing. Patrick Ben David wrote this book called Choose Your Enemies Wisely. Yep. And so I've kind of incorporated that in when I do goal setting. I'm like, okay, what's your enemy in this? And people always want to say, well, me. And I'm like, no, you can't say you. And they're like, well, why not? I'm like, if you are your enemy, how will you ever be? If you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and you don't like the person looking back, or the person looking back, you think the person looking back is keeping you from where you want to be, you'll never grow anywhere because you think you're the problem versus thinking you're the solution. So I think it's so important, like, to recognize when you unpack something, it's a good thing. Like, you as a human being have recognized, wow, this is no longer serving me. I'm getting rid of this. And it becomes a joy versus being like people want to, I love bourbon. Like, people are like, well, you should quit drinking. I'm like, at this point in my life, I enjoy it. I don't consider it an enemy. But there are things that I've gotten rid of because, like, I know this doesn't serve me. That makes sense?
The reason I'm relating it so much is just because I feel like I'm like, I guess in this aspect, you'd be like a bigger brother or maybe a cool uncle. I don't know. But, like, I get that. Like, even sometimes the other day I was sipping some bourbon with my dad. And when I got home that night, I was like, yeah, but you shouldn't really be drinking alcohol all the time. And I'm like, bro, you don't. You just had some bourbon with your dad and you enjoyed it. Like, that's a good moment. But I know what you mean. And sometimes you have to have your allowables as well.
Yeah.
It's all about balance, but it's interesting to, like, sometimes my wife and I will be beating ourselves up about something and it's like something so minimal. It's like, oh, we bought a piece of cake, one slice of cake. And it's like, you're freaking out because we know we shouldn't go to this cake shop and grab one slice of cake, but we're talking about one slice of cake here. But it's like, that's that unpacking. And maybe we're focused on the negative side instead of looking at, yeah, but you have the cake because of X, Y, and Z.
Is it a problem?
Right.
Are you eating a gallon of ice cream every day? That's a problem, right?
Are you all halving a slice of cake? Like, that's okay.
Yeah. If you're just, and I think that's like, I always go back to, like, does it serve you? When people are like, I've got this thing I'm doing. Okay, how does it serve you? And then if it doesn't, okay, then get rid of it, or.
Question, when you do say get rid of it, are you good about, like, cold turkey?
I try to be.
Yeah.
Obviously nobody's perfect at it.
Mm-hmm. But you strike me as someone that, since you are disciplined but also obsessive, that you'd be like, no, I'm obsessively not doing that.
It's a lot of times it's undoing the obsession. And that's that. Like, I got into Lego for a while. And so
that's a slippery slope.
Oh my goodness. I started doing it because I was doing this online course. And so I don't sit still very well. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to pick up this little thing here. So I picked it up, and while I was doing the course, I would build it, and then started building it. And then it became that to, we have this room that's, it used to be my daughter's old bedroom, and she moved out, but it's 12 by 22. And what started off as something half the size of this table became the size of this table, became eventually pretty much the whole damn room. Like, it was a giant city with trains. I was building my own buildings. It had a water feature. I used plexiglass, built out water. Like, it was multi-level, multi-story.
Wow.
It was massive. There was probably, I think I took it all apart, and I think I filled up 8 to 10 tubs. Yeah, my grandkids are they never need to buy Lego again.
That is so crazy. Bro.
And I could, yeah.
The reason I'm laughing at every moment we have is because I'm like, dang, I'm so similar. Because I get it. Like, someone had bought us Lego for a gift. I think it was a simple one. Like, mine was a Harry Potter thing. It was Dobby. And then hers was like a bouquet of flowers. And we did them. And then we did one more. And then we're like, stop. Because it was so, like, addicting that I only did 2 of them. I did the Dobby and I did a bamboo plant by my coffee station. And I was like, I'm going to stop. Because now every time I saw one, I was like, no, I want to do that. It was so fun. And it's like, you escaped for a second. And it's like, you definitely have to reel it in.
It became easy to shop for me. They were just, I think I have like 6 or 7 sets not built that I put away that I'm like, I'm going to wait for my grandkids to get a little bit older to build them with them.
But the fact to have a whole city in a room is like, I get that level of obsession.
Oh, I would lie awake at night and think to myself, if I was like building my own, I built like this Avengers tower before they came out with one. And I was lying awake and I was like, okay, they have this set, and this set. If I buy these 3 sets, I could take them apart and use these parts, and I need to find this. And I built like a 5-story, like legit like tower. It had stuff in it. It was like, and then I was like, it became a very obsessive. So
yeah, with that one, when you paused it then and put them in the tubs, was it just, you just made the decision?
Terry did a great job breaking me of the habit. At the time, my grandkids were like 4 and 2. So like 2 years ago. And she's like, go play in the room. And like 2 Godzillas. My granddaughter too, she loves like little people, and she was just like smashing into the buildings, grabbing the people out of them. I came upstairs and it was like wrecked. And she's like, you can put it back. She felt really bad. She's like, you can put it back together, right? And it just broke. I couldn't. Like it was, I was like, it broke the habit. So that was a solid break for me, which I was very thankful for. But no, it takes me a while. Like when I get stuck, like you're talking about unpacking things, depends if it's something that's like stuck with me. And it takes me a while, but you know, it becomes like this realization where once you realize, like most people, I think like, well, I have ADHD. Okay, well, how do you use that as your superpower? Like I said, I have an obsessive personality. People are like, oh, that's a good thing. It's like, no, because that was what also caused a lot of that fear-based stuff. Something would happen, and I would obsess over it, and I couldn't shake it. And and before I realized it was called, I was being obsessive about it, because I always think OCD is obsessive compulsive. And I realized that it was that obsessive personality. And I would just say, oh, eventually it'll burn itself out. And that would be my phrase. Like, Tara's like, you were driving me crazy with this. I'm like, just give me a couple more days. It'll burn out. Because I would think about it until it would just burn out of my system. And some things would take longer than others.
Right.
And so I think where the discipline comes in is like that mental, I'm a very visual person. So that mental unpacking and dropping it is what helps.
Especially with the daily, because I kind of relate to that too. The daily check-in with yourself is very important. So being able to unpack it, and then I liked when you gave yourself a little grace and you're like, oh, that made it back in there. We can't do 3 days in a row. We got to chop it there. So it's kind of going with everything we're saying. It's like a lot of balance, grace, forgiveness, but not quitting. You know, dedicating yourself to something and understanding that there's highs and lows. Like that Cliff Meadow analogy is huge, like not only for your relationship, but for your life as well. Like in business, if you're always on the cliff, you're not always going to make the best decisions.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Find a way to be stable, especially in something as volatile as like real estate or any entrepreneurship.
Well, real estate even becomes volatile in itself. And I think when it goes back to the same things, it's, you know, when I'm working people and when the brokerage comes up and asks a question, they're like, okay, let's talk about your controllables. You know, it's like, what are your controllables? And I was like, appointments you go on, service agreements, being buyer broker service agreements or listing agreements, stuff you put under contract, right? Those are actual controllables. And people are like, well, no, they're not. It's like, no. If you say, I'm going to set 2 appointments today, I'm going to set an appointment today. How many phone calls you make? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, you make as many as you need to
set that
until you set an appointment. Where most agents, I think they're like, well, I'm going to make 20 phone calls today. Okay, well, I can make 20 phone calls and talk about the weather to 20 different people. It's not going to give me any business. Or, you know, people like, well, I just don't think this is going on. Oh, how many open houses have you been on? None. You know, somebody asked me, like, what would I do if I had to start all over again? I said, I would do exactly what I did before. I was in an open house on every Sunday. I was at the office every day, whether I had something going on or not, because I wanted to be around an environment of people doing the work. All right, so be in an office, be around people doing the work, collective genius, you know, where if people working around together, you're going to pick up something, right? And then if I wasn't in an open house and I wasn't in an office, I would drive to I used to sit in new construction neighborhoods. I would set up an appointment at all the houses, the builders, like when I have random builders, and I've set up all the appointments, like, hey, I'm going to do some walkthroughs of your property, and then I would hang out there. And then when I saw a car would drive up, I'd pop out and be like, are you at my 2 o'clock? Not that that's the right thing to do. Or I'll just get on and be like, hey, did you want to see this house? And like, I can say, oh, yeah, I got it set up. I was like, you know, I'm an agent. I can show it to you. And I would show houses. And that's how I'd sell new construction.
Wow.
You know?
And that was in 2007?
That would be, I did that all the way through.
Well, I'm saying when you started was
2007. Yeah.
So continue on that a little bit, because that was my next question. Like, besides the open houses and staying busy, but a good busy, like what are some other, I guess, tips that you would give someone that's starting out, or just maybe in a funk? Because you could be 8 or 9 years in, and if you're in a slow turn of your business, you need to turn it, you know, back to the positive side.
I think most people, there's another book called The Road Less Stupid that could be summed up to more people will spend most of their time and money trying to get new clients versus working with the clients that they already have. Right? So it's talking about just companies in general. Most people don't call their database because they're people they sold houses to. They're afraid that what if something's wrong with their house? Okay. If you don't call them, if their AC breaks and you don't call them, is their AC still broken?
Right.
The difference is they have no one to take care of it. And I think that people they're afraid to make the phone calls, and they're afraid to have genuine conversations. For me, like I would make calls, I would just be like, hey, this is Pete, you got time for a business call? And I would set the precedence right up front. And be like, well, yeah. It's like, hey, so I'm calling a lot of my clients. Everybody knows the market's been super crazy right now. So I'm calling my clients because, for example, in the last 5 years, Edmond has increased by like $100,000 in equity. I'm shooting my clients over a forum. I just taught a class, a CE class it's on our school website, Levinson EDU, plug. But
what is it? Say it again.
Levinson EDU. So we do CE course. I just did a contract class, and I just got deed theft, which deed theft laws come out. So it's a CE course now for the deed theft that everybody has to do in the next 3 years. And one of the things I put in there was a script because, like you were saying, if I was like calling clients right now, I would use that script, which is basically like calling like, hey, did you know that I just took a class on deed theft, and I'm paraphrasing it. This is a class on deed theft. I don't know if you know, but Oklahoma, nationwide, there's a lot of deed theft happening, not just with vacant land. There's actually 2 cases right now that went over in my class that are happening where one of the people got an eviction notice. They've been living in this house for years, and someone, like a renter, an owner, an investor, told them they have to move out because someone sold their house. And I said, so there's a link that you can go on and you could subscribe, and it will tell you if anyone tries to do anything with your property. It's free. Oklahoma County, it's free, and its other website is free. And I put the links on there. It's in the class, and it's free. And then one of my agents today, I was like, have you make calls? Like, oh man, he goes, some of my older clients asked me if I would do it for them. And I was like, do it. I said, because you don't, just tell them, like, absolutely. I said, I would. I'd be like, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to do this. So this means if you sell your house without using me, it's going to tell me. Soon as title pulls it, I'm going to know that you didn't call me back. But, and then it'll be a joke. It's funny. I think so that I would do that right now. Hey, you got time for a business call? Hey, nothing's wrong with your property, but right now they just passed this law on November 1st because it's been such an issue nationwide and locally in Oklahoma on deed theft. I'm just calling all my previous clients to tell them, hey, go ahead and register. It's free. Most of the sites, it's free. I'll send you a link to it for Oklahoma County, and you can register for it. And then the idea is like, do you know anyone else that I can send this link to or help out with it? Because your success in real estate is directly proportionate to the amount of people when they think of real estate, think of you. Mm-hmm. But I think it's always important, like, you have a minute for a business call.
Yeah, I like that. Setting the precedent, because it's not like where you said you were just talking about the weather with those people. Those people were talking about the weather because they were nervous to set expectations up front. Yeah. It's like, no, a business call.
Well, what they do is they call and they go, hey, how's it going? How are the kids? Oh my goodness, I saw on Facebook you were at Disney. How's Disney? Oh, I've always wanted to go to Disney. By the way, have you thought about buying, selling, or investing in real estate? You just negated everything you just fucking said. They're just like, oh, this fucker, he just called me and talked about business. But now when I call and I'm like, oh, hey, I just saw you were in Costa Rica. I've always wanted to go. Where were you? And we're having this whole conversation. I'm like, oh yeah. It's like, man, how are the monkeys? Oh, the monkeys are great. What else? Oh, I saw this. I'm like, oh, it's so good. So would you recommend going there? It's like, oh yeah, fantastic. Hey, look, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Where's your next vacation? And then you hang up. They might have been expecting you to talk real estate, but when you don't, like, I think that.
I love that. No, I think that is so important because instead of trying to jumble it into one, like you said, where it just negates everything else, you're just, no, this is personal. This is business. This is personal. This is business. Like, I've talked to clients and we've had a phone call about just deer hunting and then we're done. But it's like, then next time it was like, hey, I need a lender for this. And I think that's really smart to be able to do both when needed. Like, if I was one of your clients and we were drinking bourbon and talking great, but then also talking business, then that's okay. But being able to set that precedent with clients, I think is very smart.
Yeah, if you're calling, I tell every new agent, I challenge every new agent's ever done this, before they make 20 calls, they at least have one piece of business. And the call is a very simple script. It's just, hey, my broker you have time for a business call? Because you're calling their sphere. And it's like, hey, do you have time for a business call? And most people are like, oh, yeah, go ahead. Because now they're framed, right?
Now they're like, okay, let me lock into this.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, what's going on? They come from, now they're from curiosity. And then the script I use, my broker just taught me how to do a market analysis. And to become an expert, he wants me to do at least 20 of them and then come back to him with the results. Would you mind being one of my 20? Nobody's going to be like, fuck off. They're going to be like...
It's so straightforward, but so useful.
And then by the time they get there, it's usually, oh my goodness, I'm actually getting ready to list my house. Would you? Or I had the most successful was a guy, he was actually been an agent for a while. And he was just like, man, I've got no business. I'm super stressed out. Gave him that script. By the 5th phone call, the guy said, I'm so glad you called. I have a buddy that's looking to buy and sell, and another buddy that has to sell. Let me give you he got 2 listings and a buy off of it. So he went from no business to 2 listings and a buy, and working with a buyer.
Right. Now he's busy.
Yeah. It's just a very simple script. I think people are so afraid to make the call, and that's just the icebreaker. And it's like little things like that. Real estate is not hard. It's boring. It's repetitive, but it is doing the work. You ever roof a house?
No, I haven't.
I have roofed 2 houses in my life, and I will never do it again. Every time I see somebody on a roof, I'm like, fucking awesome. Right? I hate it. Mm-hmm. Our job is not hard. Worst day of my life was, I say one of the worst days. It was in the Marine Corps. One of our aircraft had to take, I was an aviation electrician, comm nav guy, and this plane had to take off for a mission. It was raining and sleeting out, so it was like in the mid 30s, rain and sleet, and it was on the wheel well. We had to fix the anti-lock brakes, and to fix it, you have to like pop up the wheel well. It sits right below the wing. This all plays, and you have these little tiny screws, and they all have to be safety wired in a certain way. Like one wire goes through all of them, so that the cap doesn't come off. And I'm trying to safety wire it, and the rain is coming off the wing, down the side of the plane, and right down my shirt. There's no way to avoid just straight ice water. The only reason I could feel my hands, or I was doing the work, was because I could see it. I couldn't feel my hand. I couldn't feel my arms. They were frozen.
Yeah. And
it was like 2:00 in the morning. I've got people waiting for the plane to take off, and this has got to be done. I'd fixed the problem, but I had to save it. And like, this sucks. Like in my mind, I was like, this is the suckiest suck that ever sucked to suck.
Yeah.
But I was like, we don't do that.
Mm-mm.
We don't have like a mission, something that has to have mission operational thing that we have to accomplish in that. Like we affect people's lives, but nobody dies.
Yeah.
If I don't do this safety wire right, technically this wheel could, it could cause serious problems. Mm-hmm. We don't deal with that.
Yeah, that's true.
So even if it's the suckiest suck, it still doesn't go back to that moment in time.
Still a blessing.
Yeah.
Even your worst day in real estate
is never that bad. And I'm sure other people have had worse days, but that's always the thing that I remember of like thinking like,
That's so true. I wanted to talk about what led to LRE Realty. I know you and Tara have done real estate forever, and you've always been top producers. Even when I started in 2019, you all were people I would see all the time. I'd see Levinson on all these signs. I think you all were red and gray at the time. Maybe?
Yeah. Our branding colors are pretty consistent.
Okay. I think it was red and gray, or gray with red letters or something. But like, what led to starting this, and what is LRE Realty? What's the culture? Tell me about it.
Yeah. So we've been with 3 major brokerages. And I think of all the time we've been a brokerage, we only made one big announcement once. But it was when we went from we were with Coldwell Banker, we were with Keller Williams, and then we became our own independent brokerage for a little bit. And then I had a good friend of mine who for years had been talking to me about EXP. Mm-hmm. And at the time, we were financially good. Tara and I, like, we felt good about our life, felt good, like safe with everything we had going on. And I was looking for something that I thought could help agents out. I thought it had a lot of the pieces, but unfortunately the agents didn't plug in. It wasn't what people wanted, in my opinion. I know I wouldn't disparage it in any way. But so it came born from this thing that it's like, this is going to sound very egotistical, but I believe I'm very smart and plugged into the business. And it became a thing, like I realized that like real estate changes so fast that I needed the ability to pivot. I wanted the ability to help pivot quickly. There's the point where Tara was like done listening to anybody else. Tara will brag on me. She'll say, "You are the best broker I know. I will not listen to anyone else but you. So you better go do this." So I was like, okay. But so there was that aspect of it. And there was the aspect of like, man, the market is changing so quickly. I just mentioned the deed thing, right? Like that comes out November 1st. I'm registering and have a CE class within a week of it coming out, getting all the rules. People are boom, like being able to pivot that quickly.
Gives you some ownership.
Well, and it became like I have this thing where I don't like to tell. I don't think my job as a broker. So I think of my job as a broker is when an agent comes, like I always tell them, like I'm not interviewing you. You're interviewing me, like because you're hiring me. It's like we have a 80-20 split of $14,000 cap. So my goal is for you to pay me $14,000, which is not. It's not. We're not the most expensive, but we're not the most cheapest. But if you give me $14,000, what does that make you to me? And they're like, client? I'm like, exactly. You're hiring me to be your broker. Right? That's the mindset. And I feel like, to me, I feel like I had not experienced that. I had a lot of great brokers, but a lot of the brokerages, I always felt like everyone was working for the broker.
Yeah.
Which I guess technically that's the way, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but you don't want the energy to be like, you need them so bad, not the other way around.
Yeah, and so it's just like, the interview always feels like, I'm working for you, but then you come to them like, hey, I've got this problem going on, and they're telling you all the ways you're wrong and all the things you can't do. And none of the, and so for me, it's like, I wanted that ability because when agents would come to me, they would say, hey, I have this problem. It's like, great, let's figure out how to do this. Right? Let's figure out the right way, the correct way to do this. And I think in all the agents that have come to me with something, I've only had to tell 2. And of the 2, one of them we were able to figure out a way to make it a yes later. A lot of disclosure, but we were able to make it a yes. Because that's my job. I wanted that ability to, I love that the art of the deal sort of thing. And I knew that, like, hey, there are ways to do this. We just need to stop and think about it. So, we're always working with my attorney. We're always creating new forms, creating new ways to do things, finding the right way to do things, finding the right way to get permission, finding the right way to do this. As long as we're overly communicate. So there's 2 things: is communicate everything. I was told me communicate everything, and as one of my Hispanic agents said, "Papelito habla." Paper talks. I guess it's a Spanish phrase.
Yeah, paper talks.
Yeah, so that's every time I use it now for all agents, like everything. I'm like, hey, papelito habla, and they're like, what does that mean? It's like paper talks. It's a phrase from Mexico that means that.
Yeah.
So they're like paper talks. So everything is documented. So that was part of it. The logo itself, when we were coming up with the name, so we were the Levinson Real Estate team. LRE had always been kind of like a trademark logo for Tara's team. But a bunch of the agents, so like when we transferred over, we started our own brokerage, about 40, 45 agents. Tara had about 15, 20 agents on her team at that time.
And when did you all open?
It'll be 3 years in March.
That's crazy. Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats.
And several of our independent agents, Dirk and Emily Matthews, Cam, and a few others when we were talking about things, they were like, can we keep your logo? I was like, what do you mean? It's like, the LRE is so well known locally in our marketplace. Can we use that so that we can, when we put a sign out in the yard or we go to a listing presentation, we could leverage that? Because I would teach agents in the brokerage anyway, like, hey, leverage, like, you have access to, Tara's been ranked on RealTrends as the #1 agent in the state of Oklahoma for like 15 years. Leverage that. Leverage those numbers, leverage these different things. And so that's where the logo came from. And actually, Emily is the one who designed our logo for us.
And it makes it ill. I never even thought of that.
Yeah. And it's, the circles to the square. She's the one that designed it out for us.
That's awesome.
And so the name was not for us. It was more like the agent saying, we want to be able to leverage this. When a new agent comes, they can leverage that branding. It's like Coca-Cola. Someone could put, this says Topo Chico, but if this was, Topo Chico was written in the Coca-Cola script, even though it says Topo Chico, your brain would still say Coca-Cola. Yeah. And so that logo becomes, like, we hear it all the time. I see your signs everywhere. I think Tara does have like about 150 listings between active and pending. But
that's crazy.
But because the brokerage itself has like 200 listings and this logo is everywhere, people just keep seeing the logo. And they'll tell all of our agents, oh, I see your signs everywhere. Oh, I see your signs everywhere. I see your signs everywhere. Because they're seeing a consistent brand. Like, I don't have colors. Like, everyone has their own. I don't care about that. As long as that meets commission standards. And so that was kind of the birth of it. Like, being able to pivot to the market as quickly as possible and also create an environment where agents can be the most successful. I did an interview with an agent last night, and culture-wise, he wasn't looking to grow a big business. And I said, we're probably not the right brokerage for you. The things that make us really good is, I tell people we have 3 things that make us good. Number 1, we have an office. I said most brokerages are looking at the smallest footprint possible that they can operate out of that makes people happy, but doesn't piss people off. I said, I'm pissing in the wind because I built a 15,000 square foot building. I've got
with a gym,
fitness room, infrared saunas, varying the health. Like we create an environment where people can come hang out. I create an environment where if you want to bring your kids to work, go for it. We have a kids Wi-Fi in the building. Like I create this environment because I believe that my experience in real estate's always been plug in and do the work, get in the heat. People do walk into the building. Believe it or not, we do have walk-ins here. It is the wildest thing. I think everyone says, no, we have people walking in like, hey, I need to list my house. Who can I talk to?
That's crazy.
Because it's just, it's the weirdest thing. The only other place that happens is open house. So anyway, the only place on the planet where people, I always say open house is the only place where people walk in and want to do real estate. It does happen at the office. But there's also like, again, if you're in an environment of people doing things, if working from home worked, home gyms would be successful. Right?
Yep.
How many people?
All those people with bench presses in their garage.
Yes, treadmills. Yeah, exactly. But it's like, I'm going to buy a treadmill. Yeah, it's great, but your motivation, like most people aren't self-motivated that way. And you can't tell me you're going to have the most successful career possible from your kitchen table. There's too many distractions. So one is our office. The second thing is our training. I know everybody says, like, we have the best training. Like, literally, if someone teaches Tara's going to be teaching a class on negotiations. She has literally sold over $1 billion in real estate, which is easy to do when you're like in California. But when you're average, she started off her average sales price was $130,000. Her average sales price now is $250,000. But to do a $1 billion in real estate over
That's a lot. So what? 250 is 4 and $1 million, and then that's 100 of those.
Yeah. She's done it.
That's a lot.
She sold a lot of real estate.
Yeah,
and so she's negotiated hundreds of transactions, and she's going to teach how to negotiate. Nathan, who's in our brokerage, he teaches how to win a listing. He sells 80 to 100 listings a year.
Wow.
So it's the people who are teaching are people who are doing it at high level. We're blessed to have like Cam. Cam comes out and teaches. He'll teach it from investing and how to work with investors. Like he's literally like the best in the market, and he's teaching this. Or Emily is phenomenal. Like people who do it, they're doing it at such a high level, and our production rate matches that. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And then probably our third thing is I always say again, egotistical, but I'm like, you have access to me. Like I've been in the business. I'm in the trenches. I was 23rd and 24th in Costa Rica handling a deal.
Yeah.
Right. And my family's cool with it because we're all in real, and I thrive on it. So, I'm like, it's like Christmas Eve morning and I'm like going into it on an agent. Like,
I bet you like can even perform better because like their support. So like the Christmas Eve excuse of not wanting to do it wasn't even there because you're like, my whole family supports me. What do you need? And you're just on it.
Yeah. And but again, I'm also like helping my agents like win. This is actually one with Cameron and Colton, and they were in the right, and I didn't know they were on the other line. And I was like propping them up, and they were like, I called them up like, hey, here's the update. They were like, oh, we were on a 3-way. We heard everything you said to the other agent and the seller. And I'm like, damn it. I don't want you guys to think I think positive of you. I was messing with them.
Like, dang it, you heard all that?
You heard me talk positive? That's terrible. But no. But I think that's like, like I said, I'm not going to tell you no if I can't figure it out. Like we're going to figure it out. Or if you have and I think it was like, you're not working with a broker who, like, I know how to sell. Like I've listed and sold hundreds of properties, right? So it's not like I'm a broker because, I couldn't sell. It's because we started a brokerage and Tara said we have to separate the team and the brokerage. And so I got kicked out of the team.
Well, I love it because it's like, it's things that you feel from being here. I have relationships with a lot of your agents, but even being here, you can sense that space of production. You have a huge training room right here that someone's always in when I walk by.
Yeah.
And I think that that culture, that's what puts you forward. I mean, the training, that's just empowering people to do better. The experience helps them because when they do call you with that 911 or something that's really stressing them out, you can dial it back and show them progress instead of just hurdles. And I think that's big for whether it's a new agent or an established one.
Yeah, we've gotten a couple of people have joined it. It's funny, like Eddie Pando, he's probably referred several agents to us, and they call us up and they're like, yeah, Eddie told us to join because you're really good at compliance. I'm like, that is the weirdest thing for somebody to brag about a brokerage, but awesome. Come on over.
Well, you had said earlier with disclosure and all those things. Those things are important, especially when you're producing at a high level. You just have to make sure everything's streamlined. And for someone like Eddie, who's extremely busy and like a multifaceted business, those things are important.
He runs an incredible business.
How do I operate at a high level compliantly and successfully? Well, you need people like yourself that are going to put you in that position.
We've created a lot of forms for him because, this goes back to what I said earlier about the market has changed so much. 10 years ago, 2007, we'll go back to like when I started real estate. Obviously, that's dinosaur days. When you think about like fax machines and pagers, people didn't wholesale the wholesaling and flipping and all the different facets of owner carry finance, Barry Rock, what Braden does, like all these different, they were not really existent, people just didn't do those things on a normal real estate way. So the market has shifted so much. And so we're creating LOIs, we're creating forms, we're creating disclosures, we're creating, it's like the wholesale. I wasn't worried about the wholesale act that came out, even the newest one, because we were doing all those as a brokerage 2 years prior.
Oh yeah. I went to a training at my brokerage, Copper Creek, and we were going through that training and like OREC people were there and we're listening. I was like, so thankful that we were ahead of this curve.
Or you doing
things the right way, like, wow. Because it's like some of those things would shake a whole person's world. And it's like, oh no, we've been doing it right the whole way.
Well, we already had a disclosure form. We just had to add a few things to it. We were already telling people, hey, we're buying your house and selling it for a profit. I say we, the agent, I'm a licensed agent. We're going to bring people to your house who are potential buyers. We're already telling them all this different stuff.
And the good thing about that, not switching gears to wholesale, but just expectations in general, it goes back to the phone call with, are you ready for a business call? Setting these sellers up for success, whether it's going to be a listing or whatever facet of the business, expectations, over communicate.
Well, if you ever do something and then afterwards follow it up with, we got away with it. That's the immediate check that I did something wrong, because you never have to get away with doing the right thing.
No. And you should hopefully have that moment and be like, never again.
Well, it's a good feeling when even when you do something that's incorrect and the commission calls you and the investigator goes, hey, Peter, I know you always try to do the right thing. Walk me through this situation. That's a good feeling. And it's like, well, and then you're, like I mentioned the team name earlier. I failed. I didn't do it correctly. You can blame the agent. We can blame this. But the truth is, it's my responsibility as a broker to ensure all team names are registered. They brought it to us. We talked about it. We discussed it. We had a plan. When we did this, I missed it. It's on me. I could blame them, but it's on me. I should have done it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
What's my fine?
Man, I've got to say, I know you were one of such a fun guy to podcast with, because I have a similar mind frame where I like to jump, so I think it's perfect. But for this to be the longest interaction we've had, and I've had history with you, this was really cool for me. I know that's a light word, saying cool, but it was impactful, not only on the real estate business, because you gave me pointers that I can implement into my business, but my personal life, my relationship, but also your mindset. And I always love talking to other men, and it sounds like cliche, but knowing you're not alone. When you talk to men at various stages of their life and you get positive and negatives, it's good to talk to the other sex as well. But for men, especially as we're progressing through our chapters, it's really healthy to get some wisdom, whether you think it's wise or not. But this was cool, and I'm glad you wanted to sit down.
Oh, absolutely. I was very excited when I heard a couple of people that were like, I did a podcast with Zach, I did a podcast with Zach, I did a podcast with Zach. I'm like, I'm going to do a podcast. No,
I appreciate it.
No, I've super enjoyed this. I enjoyed the conversations. I love dialogues like this, and you hit a couple of passions of mine. Relationship, personal growth, and real estate. I mean, it's weird to don't just say that because I'm in real estate. I really enjoy the business.
Well, now I know some inside jokes to like tick you off if I need to. I just like send you a big ass Lego set. You're like, no.
Oh, I've had people stop me like, no, I've got to be so careful. Like I'll be side eyeing. We're in the mall. I see Lego stuff. I'll be side eyeing.
Don't let one be on sale.
Oh, I get that.
That itch. She's like, I haven't done drugs, but I've done Lego.
Yeah, like they came out with the Home Alone house is coming out, or the Stranger Things like houses came out, and I'm like what? I just want to look. You know, can I taste? It's a taste. A little bump. Can
I? Last question.
Yeah.
Well, 2. Is there anything I left out that you wanted to talk about?
Man, if somebody listened all the way to this, which would be amazing.
Which they might, because you.
Yeah, well, no, it's because you're
all your haters. They're going to be like, let me listen to this.
Oh, I'd love for them. I think it's, I have this might sound like a plug for my personal podcast.
No, please. Talk about that. That's fine.
It's really, I think it's really like this epiphany thing that I kind of had, which is, I started saying it years ago, and it's when people say they're old, like, I'm old. It drives me crazy because I have this phrase, which is older but never old. Mm-hmm. And to me, I think if I could leave somebody with that, and any age can be old. Old is to me, old is a destination. Old says I've arrived. Old says I'm done. Older means that we are constantly progressing. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to that original quote that we started with. Stars, bars, and chevrons are only indications of rank that we hold in any place and time. So many people, I think that they put people on pedestals or they knock themselves down into the mud because they look at where they are. Mm-hmm. And I've known people, I've sit in conferences where this guy was on stage talking about, we do $1 billion a year in real estate, a year. Like I'm in 16 different states. We've got 540 people and he's just going all these huge numbers, or this is our GCI, and everyone's taking notes. And then we went over to a private mastermind. I'm sitting in the van, a dude slid up next to me. I'm like, man, great job up there. Your business doing great. He's like, bro, I'm about to file bankruptcy. I'm like, what? He's like, oh, my shit. Yeah, I think we're going to shut the whole thing down. Just drop down to my team and like one other market. Everything else is not profitable. Like it's eating our ass. I'm thinking, bro, you were just literally on stage in front of like 10,000 people. And I'm just like, wow. So I think that's like, don't judge or make a thing like this person's better, this person's this. Because the best knowledge I've ever learned is like every conference I go to, if they have a Rookie of the Year panel, I'm like one of 10 people in this panel. Everybody wants to hear the top producer. Now, I want to hear the person who got in and did some shit. Mm-hmm. First year in real estate, I had sold $250,000 of real estate in a market where the average sales price is $280,000. Like, tell me how you did that. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be, it's like the older but never old, which is like realize that like everyone's on this destination, and you've only arrived when you decide you're old. You only arrive when you decide to stop growing. And then I guess the second part of that is just do like you did, reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'd love to pick your brain. When I was at this conference, and this was like back when our teams, when Tara and I was on a team, I think we had like 6 agents, and we were doing our GCI that year was 1.65 million GCI. Average sales price was under 200, like 180. So, that's a lot of production. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting at this table, at this conference, and we're having lunch, and I'm eating a sandwich, and this guy across from me did not stop talking the whole 45 minutes. He spouting knowledge, and, like he was grand poobah. And I think he had done I think he said like 350 to 500,000 GCI. So he was good. He was a performer, and he's just going on and on. And the whole time he's eating a sandwich, just listening to him. And my son-in-law, Cole, was with me at the very end of the conversation. He was toward the end of lunch. He's like, man, I wish I could sit with one of those top producers that does like $1 million to $2 million GCI. I would love just to pick their brain. And my son-in-law looked at me, and I was like, like say nothing. And he got up and left. And he was asking me later, he goes, why didn't you say something? And I said, because I learned more than listen to this guy talk. And the other thing is he didn't want to hear from anyone else. He didn't want to ask questions. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, you got to ask questions. You have to ask. You learn more from asking. I know I've talked a lot during this, but
no. But
I think it's like people have to stop thinking that somebody is better than them because, oh, he drives this, or they do this, or they have that, or they live here. I could have $1 million in the bank, or I could be $1 million in debt right now with no money. All you know is the front that I put off.
I mean, that's so huge because the guy's doing the conference and then sliding next to you in the van and saying, yeah, my shit's fucked. It's like, what? And like on the positive side of that, we talked about it a little bit earlier when I like had messaged you to do this, but that has been one of the things of the podcast that have been amazing, and other conversations off the pod, but meeting people that are in a position like you or a different position, and it being the real things that are keeping them there, and not some phony stuff, like just real stuff. Like, oh, I tackle each day. I unpack in the morning, make sure I'm moving correctly. I dedicate myself to the work. And it's like, that's more motivating than any of it. The people that are real people, and they tell you the good, the bad, and they just keep it real. Because that's like not obtainable. I don't know if that's the word, but like that's something that people can really experience.
Well, I think we all have these assumptions. I was talking to somebody, they're like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, well, I was talking about, we were just in a conversation, like, oh, Tara and I were at this house, and, you know, we're putting this tile in. And I was like, in the conversation, like, yeah, it was like 8:30 the other night, we're putting this tile in, and they, whoa, wait a minute. You guys were tiling? We're like, well, yeah. I'm like, at night. I'm like, well, yeah, we worked during the day on this job, and then we were, you know, like, don't you have crews? I'm like, well, yeah. It's like, we have like 10 flips going. They're like, you have 10? Like, well, we have flips and holds, and like, and you're doing the work. It's like, well, we have crews. Like, well, what the fuck else are we gonna do? Like, we're empty nesters. We can go home and watch TV. I'm like, well, you do your own. I would never have believed that. I'm like, why?
I've actually seen a lot of content of you working on your flips and things, and it's like, I can't remember what you said, but you're like, I'll never get too big. I don't even remember what you posted, and I may be wrong, but it was something to the effect of like, I'll never get too big to like do this.
Yeah, I've done a couple of those. I think I've done some where you can't always wear suits, but it's just like, I think one of the greatest blessings is I could look like this, and then I've transitioned to like look into it wearing this. I used to wear suits all the time. But I think that, you know, John C. Reilly, I think he spelled it out. Like, it was a couple of months ago, I saw this interview with John C. Reilly, and he said, you know what it is? He was like, I was on a subway, and this guy goes, hey, are you John C. Reilly? He's like, well, you know he is, right?
No, I don't know.
He's Step Brothers.
Okay.
So Will Ferrell, he's the
curly. The other guy is John C. Reilly.
Yeah, he's been in a ton of. I mean, he's a huge actor. He's been in.
I know him. I didn't know that was his name. Yeah, I just knew him as that guy.
Yeah, like he's in Talladega Nights. He's been in.
He's hilarious.
He's in Chicago. Like, he's been in a ton of movies. And this guy's like, saw me on a subway. He goes, hey, are you John C. Reilly? He was like, yeah. And he goes, the fuck are you doing on a subway? He goes, well, I'm going somewhere. He's like, where the fuck are you on a subway? And he's like, and the guy was genuinely mad at me. And he goes, I thought you shouldn't be like in a limo on a private plane. And he goes, and it shattered that illusion. There was this illusion that, oh, I'm a Hollywood actor, I'm this, or I'm successful. Mm-hmm. And so I'm living this grander life than him. And when this person realized that, like, no, like, I'm just like you. Like,
I'm a human.
Yeah, I'm a human. Just because you're putting me on this pedestal, it doesn't exist. Like, you don't know. And he was talking about, like, you don't know why, like, my finance. Like, I'm not making $20 million a movie. You know, I'm making a good living, but I'm not. You know, and he goes, I think a lot of times we create these illusions, mm-hmm. and then when, you know, because that's how people get, like, Terry and I joke around, like, people get into our world, and then they get mad at us. And it's because I think because they come into this world with this expectation that, like, we're gods among men or whatever, you know, like, people, like, you get around, and I use that, we see these people and we think that they're like, oh my goodness, they're so successful, they're so this, they're so that, and then they get around us, and, you know, Tara's like, you're being a dick, and I'm like, what the fuck, you know, like, we're
they're like, you guys talk like regular people,
yeah,
like,
and then they see, you know, we're tiling a house, or we're doing this, or, like, you know, they're like, oh, I kind of had this. And it's like, well, that's not my fault.
So, no, that's so true. And I think also maybe and it'd be more for you all maybe, and maybe someone would look at me this way too, and I'm being modest, but it's like, when you do just have a real interaction, that's like the coolest. Like, this right here is literally showing you, like, you can just create a friend. Like, yeah. You can just create a relationship. And now, like now I'm more excited for how we talk further. It's like,
I hope so, yeah.
It's like, is this business or personal? Like, let's set the precedent on this call. But it's true, because when you think of someone a certain way, and then you meet them and you have a false expectation, or you're so nervous to mess up, you're not giving them your authentic self either.
No.
And I think that when you have moments like this, and even if we would have just scheduled a conversation, it would have been similar. But the fact we did a podcast shows that, like, two people that don't spend time together, can have a moment like this. And I think it's very important for people to realize, like you said, just to reach out. Everyone's a human. Control what you can control. Learn from your stress. The playbook is there.
And we'll finish. The worst case scenario, if somebody says no, they're probably not somebody you want to have a conversation with anyway.
100%. I can't remember who it was, but I had texted somebody, and I don't think you know them. It was someone on Instagram, and I had asked them about the pod, and it was one of the first times that someone was just like, started to ask a bunch of questions back. And I was like, hey, just don't even worry about it. Like, this seems so hard. Mm-hmm. Instead of, hey, Peter, you want to do the podcast in January? Yeah, I'm leaving town, but I've got these dates. Okay, let's do this day. All right, cool. See ya.
Yeah.
Like, there's beauty in getting your blessings and like going with the flow.
And you came here. I was gonna go to your place.
I know. I thought that was so sweet. Like, you're such a cool dude that when you said, "Oh, I didn't want to put you out," I was like, "This nice ass dude is worried about like putting me out." When I come in, you're finishing a brokerage meeting, So it's like, it goes to show like your character and just being a human.
Well, people are going to discover the truth about me now. I'm going to
put your suits.
I'm going to lose my villain reputation.
I know you were making a joke of like, if people make it to the end, but plug your podcast or however you want to describe it, because I've been seeing it online and I want you to make sure and plug that as well.
Probably the two things that I'm excited about is, I will say we started a real estate school. Levinson EDU, which it has pre-license.
That's where people can get licensed.
They can get pre-license and get post-license.
Nice.
The post-license, I put a lot of work in because it's actually like how to teach agents how to sell real estate. And then I'm adding, like we just did a contract CE. So and it's, in my opinion, that's why I was creating it, is it's online. I teach it, and it's 6 different classes that are basically, it's not just like it's residential sales contract. Like I go space by space on how to do it, but also teach how to present. And so it's like not just here's a contract, but how to sell it. So I'm very excited about that. We're adding more to it. So I would say like $10 a class is what I'm charging. So super, super inexpensive. I think if you all 6 CE is like $45 on there. So Levinson EDU, I'd love to plug that. I'd love to get more agents on there because I think better together.
And when we drop it, text it to me and I'll add it to the description.
Okay. And then, I'm just started this like conversation, that older but never old, which is just talking, kind of like conversations like this. And it's a subtext as real estate, life, and leadership. But it's just having conversations with, different people, like where they're at in their life, and how does it all flow together.
And how many have you done?
Just 3 so far.
Who were they, if you don't mind?
Yeah, one was Dominic Dangora. He was in lending. He does a lot of people don't know. He has his hands in so much different real estate, and he just moved over to our brokerage. And just talking about the 50-year mortgage is kind of like the spit of it. Just wanted his input from being all these different world, from a very successful lender, moved into just residential sale, or not resident, but just all types of investing, developing. I mean, he does so much. And then the second one was with Dirk and Emily. Nice. Which was like incorporating like real estate, but it was like, how do you go from adopting 2 grown kids, essentially, like 8 and 10, and I just thought that was, and then how do you incorporate it all into your business and life and time management and all this stuff? Not like you had a baby, like you learn, like they literally adopted 2 kids, siblings. And I thought that was just a tremendous story. And the third one was with Heather Bomar. She's a lender with Neo.
Yep.
And they have 5.
She's been around for a while.
Yes. Yeah. And she has 5 kids and has if people didn't know this about, they have like a farm. Like they have 4 cows, chickens. Like they have like it's like in-town acreage. And they milk their cow, they get eggs, like
that's awesome.
They grow a garden, like, and it's like this whole farm atmosphere happening in her house. And I was just like, talk about that, so it's just stuff like that.
I love that you're doing that. And I love that it fit into the timeline of doing this too. I think that's perfect.
Oh, well, I love what you're doing. Like I said, you've done some pretty cool, I haven't got to watch like full episodes. That's my own, but you did that one where you met someone on the hiking trail.
In Portugal?
Yeah, I thought that was like...
I actually met her at a food market, and she was the one hiking. So she had just hiked 500 miles. And we were sitting at a table like this, but you're standing, and it's one of those food markets that you would see on like the Food Network, where there's juice and fish and just everything. And we like locked eyes and felt like communicating. And I'll be honest, I'm usually the first one to say something. And I kind of like just froze. Like, I don't know, something inside me was like kind of holding back. And she was like, hey, do you want some of this? And I was like, yeah, do you want some of this? And me, her, and my wife started talking. And she's like, yeah, I'm American. I live in Austin, and I haven't been around any Americans in months. I've been hiking. And then when we walk off, right when we walk off, my wife's like, hey, you should go ask her to be on the pod. And I turned around and asked her. So within 2 hours or so of knowing her, she was at our Airbnb doing this. And then we went to dinner.
So I think that is amazing. You know, one of my quotes is that one from, I can know his name just slipped out of my head. The guy who was the food guy who traveled all over the world.
Oh, Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain. It's that one long quote that talks about like eat an oyster, drink that's one of my quotes. It's a picture of him. And I don't memorize the whole thing, but it's just like just live.
Just do it.
Every second. Be present. Eat an oyster. Drink an like just do it. And I saw that and I was like, how cool is that? Like to meet someone and do something, and I might have missed this word, but just that is amazing.
That means a lot. And I do appreciate you saying that, because it was a moment for me as well. When I was over there, I had one planned where it was me, a really good friend of mine I met over there, and then 2 guys he has basically done business with for 20 years. So it was like 3 guys that are like brothers and then me. And so I had that one planned and was excited, but the Portugal one was super random. And when I did it, I was like, oh, like this is a part of why I do this. Because we would have connected in some form because we already have, but we wouldn't have this to where it's an hour and a half, 2 hours of us talking. And then the thing I love about it is when we move forward from this, we always have this foundation.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Whether it's you coming back on for another episode, it's me interviewing Tara or anybody in the LRE, like it's a nice foundation, but like each personal connection, like I said, you're number 119. Each episode, I feel like a personal connection and like a real foundation was built. So it's been really nice for my life.
That's impressive. 119 is impressive, the commitment and any of that. So yeah.
I was talking to someone yesterday about it, and they brought it up, and they were like, how's your podcast going? And I said, it's going good. And anytime I get, not discouraged, but anytime I get a little flustered or like overwhelmed, I have a moment like this to where it's a Tuesday or Thursday, and I sit down with someone and we have a great conversation, and I know they leave better and the listeners enjoy it, but I leave a better person. I've never done a podcast and left and been like, that was fucking terrible. And I feel like a terrible person, and I'm not happy. Every time I leave, I'm fired up, whether it's business, life, and I appreciate you sharing the space.
Oh, yeah. Anytime you want to have a conversation, I'm open.
We'll get out of here. But thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.